A cloudy afternoon ahead of rain and storms this evening. As you heard Sam mention, remnants of Tropical Storm Beryl, now a tropical depression. Is that right, Sam?
That's right, and it's only weakening more and more, Brooke.
Okay, but severe weather, though, in our path tonight.
Yeah, unfortunately, there's a lot of twist in the atmosphere, and the center of circulation from Beryl is pretty weak, but it's continuing to get pretty close to our area. So what that means is this counterclockwise circulation in the atmosphere is going to be making for a couple of tornadic storms as we get you into later on this afternoon and early evening. Now, here's what we currently have on display. Periods of rain, and basically along and north of the Ohio River. That's where the cooler air is with Beryl, but you can see the warmer sector is right over much of Kentuckiana. This is where the ingredients are favorable for a couple of severe storms as we take a look at the remainder of the afternoon and evening. Up to the north and east right now, this has been a storm that we've been tracking. It was in Breckenridge County around the 9 a.m. hour, but now as we hit the noon hour, it's just over Madison, making its way over Carroll County. The storm not severe, but I promise you can get the city of Carrollton. Rainfall is coming down very heavy right now along U.S. Highway 421 and towards U.S. Highway 42 along the river itself. We're also dealing with some more steady rain showers and a couple of pop-up, basically some rumbles of thunder, not out of the question from Hardinsburg down towards Litchfield. We are watching very closely this afternoon and evening for a couple of storms to be producing some locally heavy rainfall. We're going to be watching a medium risk for a couple of tornadoes, and there will be a risk as well for a couple of very strong wind gusts with some of these storms as they organize and drift into our area. I think the timeline of the highest chance for severe weather will be from 5 to 10 p.m. this evening. You can see by 4 o'clock a few of these storms will be organizing just to our west. Please stick around in a few more minutes. I'll update everybody on much more on that futurecast as we head into the evening, and I'll let you know if the remnants of Beryl will stick around again tomorrow as well.
All right, Sam and our team of meteorologists will be monitoring today's storms on air and online. You can stay connected with the WHAS 11 News app. And Mayor Craig Greenberg, and looking at the history, really, back in Texas, you only get some of these categories, category 1 or 2s every few years over there, Sam.
Right. It's not as common. Of course, the big one that really comes to mind is Hurricane Harvey. That was very catastrophic with all the flooding and all these images coming out of the flooding in Houston. Very unfortunate. It reminds me a lot of the damage that Harvey provided. Now, the nice thing is, Brooke, Beryl has really been weakening a lot over the past 24 hours and beyond. It's now a tropical depression, and it's a slow churning storm across northern Arkansas. Now, it is actually going to be quickly jetting its way to the north and east, eventually getting over St. Louis and Indianapolis later on tonight. But we remain on the warmer sector of this whole system. So we're going to be continuing to see highlighted risk for some tornadoes and damaging wind locally in Kentuckiana. Level 3 out of a 5 of scale of severe weather throughout the afternoon and early evening. Let's get started. We've been quiet in the metro over the past 2 hours, but right around 10:15 to 10:20 this morning, there was a complex of storms on the west side of Louisville, draped across New Albany and Sellersburg. So again, mainly clipping spots in downtown and points west of I-65. That storm is now up to the north, getting pretty close to Cincinnati. So if you do have travel plans up I-71, it'll be a little bumpy of a ride there, especially towards Warsaw. We're expecting to see the rainfall really pick up across our extreme northeastern communities. There's also a couple more showers and rumbles of thunder placed across Breckenridge County and Perry County right now. Nothing severe, but some pretty decent light rainfall with that activity. Here's actually the risk of severe weather. Levels 3 and 5 out of a, or levels 2 and 3 out of a scale of 5 for severe weather. We're going to be watching some areas where there could be some tornado warnings posted. There's also going to be some reports of damage looking possible and some localized flooding. In fact, the flooding and the heightened risk of severe weather is most likely across our northwestern spots. So you can see just north of Louisville, that appears to be that risk of an enhanced risk of a tornado later on today. Now, here's actually the look at what we're looking at with rainfall. Now, some spots easily could be seen about 1 to 2 inches of rain anywhere from Jasper towards Seymour and Salem. Never drive through a flooded roadway. The rain's going to be coming down at a really good clip as we take a look at later this afternoon and evening. So again, a little bit closer on Futurecast, the storms will be popping up on our radar closer to about 3 to 5 p.m. That risk for storms will continue as we take a look at the early evening, notice around sunset and just after, these storms will continue to really impact Interstate 65 before they finally push their way just to the east around midnight up by Cincinnati and points east of our area, finally pushing out of here by about midnight. And we're going to be giving way to a rather quiet overnight. A couple of clouds will be passing through, but after midnight, it's going to get real just quiet outside in general. Temperatures this afternoon are only going to, or tomorrow afternoon, will only be in the lower 80s as we expect a much drier trend to be sticking with us. But a current look at our temperatures real quick, along with the chance for storms. 70s to the north, we have 80s in full force down to the south and east. So you can see the warmer side of Beryl giving way to that potential for severe weather later on. There's actually a look about a 15-degree temperature difference from St. Louis all the way towards Nashville so far as we speak. There's your patio forecast, though. Rounds of sunshine kicking into our forecast Thursday and right on into the weekend. In fact, we're going to be back with the dog days of summer right after we deal with Beryl's remnants throughout the course of the day today. Brooke, back to you.
Thanks for sticking with us here. 12:31, a day to be on alert with some severe weather in our forecast. We always thank you every day for joining us here during the noon hour. And a heads up real quick for tomorrow, there will be no noon news because the Indiana Fever will be taking on the Washington Mystics during this time. You can watch it all live right here on WHAS 11. That game kicks off right at 12 o'clock.
Sure, there's a lot of Fever fans so skipping a hop away from Indianapolis.
I know. I've heard from so many people that go to the games how electrifying it is and fun. Anyway, getting back to today, because right now pretty quiet behind us. Not the case in the next few hours.
Don't be fooled by it. If you're about to step out the door for the rest of the afternoon, maybe running a couple of errands, it's kind of a quick heads up from basically 5 in the afternoon until about 10 this evening. We're going to be watching the potential for severe weather, and a couple of storms may turn severe even before 5 p.m. So give or take an hour or two in that time frame. That's going to be the focus for a couple of storms producing tornadoes possibly today and some strong wind. Now, right now, getting out the door, no active severe thunderstorm warnings on our map. We have a storm we've been watching pretty closely for the past few hours, now making its way up I-71 by Cincinnati. There's another storm brewing in Henry County by Newcastle, and we'll give you a closer look at the activity. You can see there's some decent lightning with this cell pushing just outside of Jefferson County, Indiana, into the east of Madison. We also have a couple additional light rain showers draped from English and points south of there. So again, no severe weather right now, but later on today, we're expecting to see things change quite a bit. In fact, a level 3 out of 5 on the scale of severe weather concern is posted along into the north and west of Louisville. We're going to be tracking some tornadoes possible. We'll see some damage reports coming in and very heavy rainfall. Stick around. In a few more minutes, I'm going to talk you a little bit more through Futurecasts and guide you into how the remainder of the week is looking after today's severe weather threat in a few more minutes.
Sam, thank you. Amazing number. I mean, horrible when you have to think about this in general. It's still happening here in America, but when you see numbers like that, 24% down.
Yeah,
that's great
huge.
stuff.
That's huge. Yeah, exactly. We're going to be watching. I almost called you Grace. We're going to be watching some storms rolling through the afternoon and evening. If you have some plans outside today, we're not expecting a severe weather outbreak by any means, Brooke, but a few storms due to the remnants of Beryl. There's a lot of circulation in the atmosphere and spin. What that generally means is there will be enough twisting motion that to make a couple of tornadoes pop up here and there. So something we're going to be watching pretty closely. But you can see the remnants of Beryl are actually situated in extreme northeastern Arkansas. Right now, Beryl's going to be continuing to trek its way to the north and east, and we're just dealing with some steady old rain showers well west of Kentuckiana, but right now we're in the warmer tier of this whole system, which means that we're going to be in the works of picking up some scattered showers and storms that could be turning severe later today. The band of storms that we saw around midday in Jefferson County and Floyd County is now well to the north towards Cincinnati. As far as we're concerned, in Bedford towards Seymour, there are a couple of showers and storms popping up, but regardless, we remain quiet as in most spots right now. But again, this was earlier on this morning. Notice the west side of Louisville, anywhere west of I-65, even downtown included, did see the heavier band of storms as they are now well off to the north and east by Cincinnati. And as far as we're concerned, just some steady light rain showers draped across our western spots. Of course, we're going to be watching this activity very closely as we get into the remainder of the day. In fact, a few of us are seeing some clear blue sky. Of course, when you get the risk of severe severe weather. Any kind of blue sky and clearing opens the door for more instability and more energy to enter the atmosphere, and that could be opening the door for a couple of severe storms later on today. Down to the south, that's where the more humid and warm air is, basically along into the north of the Ohio River. That's where we're dealing with some cooler pockets of air, and the feels like temperature is in the mid to upper 90s by Springfield right now. Our feels like temperature in Louisville sitting at 86, so very sticky, humid air mass in the works for us here as well. Throughout the rest of the day, we're going to be tracking very heavy rainfall with any kind of storms that do develop. A couple of tornado reports could be possible and strong wind gusts as well. A couple of tornadoes, of course, could be trekking their way basically and impacting us through mid-afternoon just in time for the dinner hour. Rainfall rates along Louisville could be around a half an inch to an inch. Northwest of Louisville, we're going to be picking up some 1 to 2 inch rainfall tallies with some of these storms that do ignite themselves later on today. So again, putting it all together on Futurecast, notice west of I-65 and basically towards Tell City across much of western Kentucky, those storms will drift into our area closer to about 4 or 5 this afternoon. And they are going to continue to really hammer us here into the remainder of the late afternoon and early evening hours, especially as we approach sunset. Notice in Louisville on the east end of town, there will be a couple of storms possible, and they're going to continue to really stick around into the 11 o'clock hour, but likely around midnight and beyond, these storms will be pushing their way well to the east and clearing our area, giving way to just a couple of sporadic light rain showers overnight tonight. Temperatures tonight should be in the lower 70s, if not the upper 60s, and tomorrow there may be a brief shower rolling through in the afternoon. Otherwise, it'll be a pretty quiet one. Your Mark's Car Wash forecast a bit closer. We're going to be picking up rounds of sunshine later on tomorrow, and then again on Thursday. Clouds will be dropping off late into the day. A high temperature of 86 degrees, and your 7-day forecast is showing rounds of sunshine, very hot conditions into the course of the weekend. There may be a brief shower or storm possible once again with quite a bit of sunshine. Stick around. We have more coming up.
Starts now.
There may be a few strong to severe storms that come through the area, which of course have the risk of producing significant wind and tornadoes, as we saw last week. Dangerous weather can strike, sometimes without warning.
Right now at 4 o'clock, we begin with your forecast. The remnants of that tropical storm barrel now in our area, bringing a chance for severe storms tonight. Meteorologist Colleen Peterson's keeping a close eye on that. And Colleen, you've already had a tornado warning, not here in Louisville, but not far from us.
Yeah, it was in Adair County. Thankfully, it was weak and it did not produce a tornado. However, the environment is there. When we're talking about a tropical system, there's already a lot of spin in our environment, which is why there's actually a tornado watch for the majority of the state of Kentucky, including southern Indiana and northwestern Tennessee. So we're kind of on the dirty side is what we talk about in tropical lingo of seeing some of those severe storms that could produce those short-lived, weaker tornadoes. However, it only takes one to strengthen up for 10 minutes and then start to weaken to cause impact to your neighborhood. So we're going to give you as much warning as possible, but these individual cells are already starting to fire up. There's a tornado warning just on the edge of Grayson County, but we want to zoom on in. Here's Louisville. We're not seeing any storms in the path of Jefferson County right now, but this severe thunderstorm warning, it's starting to fizzle out a little bit, losing its strength. I think it's going to go ahead and expire, but we're going to keep our eyes on it because it only takes a few minutes for it to spin up and produce potentially a tornado. Now, we don't really talk about tornado threats a lot here in Kentucky, especially numerous. But when we're dealing with a post-tropical system, it's just the kind of environment that we are in. There's a tornado warning in place, not for our area, but it can eventually enter our communities. And when that happens, if that tornado warning is extended, I'll make sure to keep you updated. But right now, Breckenridge, Grayson County, just know that there is a cell that could potentially be producing a tornado heading your way. As of right now, there's nothing confirmed or any immediate threat of a tornado in our area. This tornado watch is until midnight tonight, so we still have 8 hours of seeing these cells spin up very quickly. In fact, the majority of the state of Kentucky is under this tornado watch until midnight. So post-tropical barrel, we're going to continue to see those cells start to fire up, those strong south winds that could spin up a few potentially weaker side tornadoes. By the time we head towards midnight, that's when barrel will be off to the north and northwest where that low pressure is, and then we'll start to see that rain clear out and be on the better side of that storm, the weaker side, and seeing that dry air filter in. So latest track on post-tropical barrel heading just to the north of us, but again, we're on that south-southeast side, so we'll be continuing to watch those cells here for the next few hours until that threat comes in. We'll keep you updated.
Back here at home, we are talking about what could turn into some severe weather across the area. It looks a bit cloudy out there. When are you actually expecting this to hit Metro Louisville?
As long as we don't see that orange-red tint, that's an indicator that we have some storms out there. But yeah, Shay, I mean, this is post-tropical barrel. Our atmosphere is spinning out there, which is why there's a tornado watch in place for the majority of the state of Kentucky. 2 active tornado warnings, but neither of those warnings are in our area. We're going to keep a close eye on it. So barrel is off to the west. We're on the dirty side of the system, meaning the south-southeast gets the majority of those spin-up tornadoes when it comes to tropical storms. So we're not as concerned with the core of the system. We're concerned with the tornado threat on some of those outer bands. So a tornado watch is in place for our whole community until midnight tonight. That's some time away, so it is going to be a busy evening as we continue to watch these outer bands from what's left over of barrel. Looking at our radar right now, there's 2 warnings. One is on the fringe, that's a tornado warning, but I'm not thinking that they're going to extend it. It's on that weaker side, but I do want to zoom on into that severe thunderstorm warning, also showing signs of weakening. So not seeing an immediate concern of a tornado active in our area as we speak. This severe thunderstorm warning is going to expire in just about 13 minutes, and it's moving off to the north and northeast. So Milltown's probably getting some rain, potentially some strong wind gusts, and then it's going to head north of Louisville. So for Jefferson County, not seeing anything concerning here. Potentially for the next hour, it's going to be a long night, and we're going to continue to watch these cells develop. So this is that tornado warning that's in place, and it looks like it's about to enter Grayson County and Breckinridge County, cutting right between either one of them. We're going to watch that closely, and if it is extended, we are going to head and let you know and keep you updated here at WHAS 11. But as of now, it is just on the fringe of our area. Walking you through that forecast model, now until 6:30, we're going to continue to see those isolated thunderstorms. Now watch what happens as we head towards 8 o'clock. The line, this is an outer band of the remnants of barrel that's going to enter our area at 8, 9 o'clock, first in Bedford, Salem, and Brandenburg. And I think that's going to be the peak of impacts from 8 to 10 p.m. when that stronger outer band heads our way. So we'll see some heavy downpours, and right along it, we're going to get a lot of those south winds, which is why we're on the south-southeast side of that low pressure system, which is why we have the threats of seeing not only one, but we could potentially see numerous tornadoes embedded in that line. Now, the good thing about tropical systems, a lot of those tornadoes are short-lived and on the weaker side when we're talking about a scale, potentially EF0, EF1, but it only takes one to impact your neighborhood. So we're going to keep you updated regardless. It looks like it's going to cross Jefferson County around 10 o'clock. And then once we head past 11 o'clock, we'll start ruling some counties in the clear. That wind will start to switch from the north as we head overnight. So the threat of severe weather will come to an end at midnight. That storm's going to move on out, and we're going to get some north-northwest wind, bringing in some drier air and more pleasant conditions for your Wednesday. So from now until midnight is the threat. And in fact, we're kind of right in the center of the heat of what we're seeing across the United States from barrel today. So our impacts are now until midnight, brief tornadoes and strong wind gusts, and some of those storms and outer bands of post-tropical barrel is going to impact us tonight. So the track on this system, the center core is going to be off to the north. So they're lucky in Illinois that they're actually getting it a direct path, because we're not even in the track of the system, but we are seeing the peak impacts from Beryl until midnight. That's what happens when it comes to tropical systems. So as we head towards tomorrow, we are no longer going to be in the threat starting at midnight, and then we'll have a beautiful setup the rest of the week. It looks like we're heating up as we head towards this weekend. We have mid-90s back in that forecast for Saturday, Sunday, and potentially could be a heat wave settling in as we head towards the middle of July. But we're going to keep you updated on post-tropical Beryl and let you know if there's any more warnings. Shay?
All right, thanks so much, Colleen.
Good afternoon. I'm meteorologist Alden German. We're going back into severe weather coverage as we are expecting a new tornado warning to be issued. And in fact, it has just been issued here. And I'm waiting for our Max 1 computer to get back up and running. So in the meantime, Will, if you could launch up Max 3, and we'll talk about this tornado warning here that we have really quickly. It's for the western parts of Grayson County. It's just clipping the county at the moment, but it is moving relatively slowly. Here's a look at the radar loop of the last hour. You can see that classic hook shape with it. So as we get that hook shape, that's telling us that we have rotation in the atmosphere and that the storm is potentially able to produce a tornado. I'm also joined by meteorologist Colleen Peterson. This warning goes until 4:15 p.m. Central Time. This is for northwestern Grayson County and the extreme southwestern portion of Breckenridge County, again until 4:15 p.m. Central Time. It's currently 3:30 Central Time over there. These storms are moving very slowly, only at about 20 to 25 miles per hour. And we can now switch back to Max 1, please, and I'll put a storm track on this. And we can see that this storm is moving quite slowly, again, only at about 25 miles per hour. And it's continuing off to the northeast right now as I look for my tool here. There it is. So it's currently near Horse Branch, which is technically just outside of our area, but it's moving to the northeast, only 25 miles per hour. Now, that's a good thing in the sense that it gives you a lot of lead time. It's a bad thing in the sense that if there's any hail or really heavy rain or strong winds with this, you could see some localized areas of flooding or some potential hail damage. But thankfully, hail is not really a concern with this. Moving to the northeast again at 25 miles per hour. So Jugville, 3:38 p.m., about 7 minutes from you. Heights Fall at 3:49. Falls of Rough just before 4 o'clock Central Time. All of these times are in Central Time. Cannons Point at 4:05 and Hardinsburg around 4:32 p.m. Central Time, by which point hopefully that warning will have been expired. We're also looking at another cell that's just to the south of it. This is over Welch's Creek right now, but that does not look quite as strong or as threatening as this one does. Putting on a velocity mode here, it's this area of rotation. It's fairly broad, but it is still there, and that's what we're keeping our eye on. It's kind of in this general area that we're watching right now. So just to the south of Horse Branch, and that's going to continue to move to the northeast again at only 25 miles per hour. So much like some of the earlier storms that we've been looking at, these are fairly disorganized or relatively disorganized. They are somewhat short-lived too in terms of that tornado potential, but they could potentially produce a tornado that briefly touches down and then shoots back up, similar to what we experienced the other day in parts of Harrison County and in West Louisville right now. So I'm also joined by meteorologist Colleen Peterson. We have this tornado watch that's in effect until midnight that goes for our entire viewing area.
Yeah, it's going to be a long evening dealing with the remnants of Beryl. This is our time now, and in the form of tornadoes. That is going to be our main impact, which is why we have this tornado watch in place until midnight, including the majority of the state of Kentucky, southern Indiana. So here's what I need you to do. Try to stay off the roads if you can. We are seeing multiple cells starting to fire up out along the leading edge of Beryl. And then as we head towards the evening from 8 to 10 p.m., that is going to be our peak window of seeing the impacts from Beryl. So this is post-tropical tornadoes that we are seeing in the outer bands. So typically they lie on that weaker side. They're short-lived, but at the same time, they can also speed up very quickly and form within a 2-minute period. I mean, these are strong cells potentially that's entering our area. So this tornado watch is in place until midnight. There are a few cells that we're watching here out on that radar. So if we could go ahead and switch it over to radar and start tracking that that tornado warning that's in place. So we have 2 warnings in place, that severe thunderstorm warning west of Louisville, but this is what we don't want to see when it starts to get that hook echo. So that is where we're potentially seeing that rotation, and it could be strengthening right before our eyes right now. So I want you to go ahead right now in Horace Branch, that's just outside of our viewing area in Grayson County, to go ahead and head inside. If you live between Heights Fall, Rough River State, and Cave Spring, you are in the potential path of a tornado. This is not confirmed on the ground. It is not radar indicated just yet. But we are going to keep our eyes on the system each scan, because if we're going to see a tornado, it's going to be right there over Horace Branch, crossing Highway 62, and then that's the county line into Grayson County, and that's the county line into Breckenridge County. So it will be impacting River State Park by 4:03 p.m. Central Time, so 5:03 Eastern Time. This is a Central Time zone that we are watching here over in Heights Fall. So Caneyville, you are in the clear. You are not in the path of this tornado warning and this potential tornado that's in place. The warning is in place until 5:15 Eastern Time. So this is a long warning. For the next 45 minutes, we are going to be tracking this one cell in specific. So producing some heavy rain. There's no indication of hail. Typically with tropical systems, it's just too warm of environment to produce hail. So I think if we're going to see something severe, it's going to be in the form of a tornado. So this tornado warning is in place for Grayson and Breckenridge County. Getting an update on our wind speeds. Yeah, that's what we're seeing right here. Pretty broad, but if it starts to strengthen and tighten, we start to get some of those blue and red and pink colors, that will show some more indication that, okay, we have a tornado. But as of now, it's showing broad rotation, so we don't have it confirmed on the radar, nor do we have it confirmed as an observation. So broad rotation over Horace Branch, Jugville, you have to seek shelter right now. This potential tornado is knocking on your front door. And then you have about 10 minutes over in Heights Fall and then Falls of the Rough. So for some rural areas, it is heading over in our far southwestern community. And looking at the evolution of this cell, notice the past 15, 20 minutes, it really started to tighten there where we're seeing that hook echo. So we're seeing multiple indications that this cell could be strengthening, and we are going to keep our eyes on this system. Pine Knob, Short Creek, I don't think you are in the path. You are just on the fringe of it. You are in the clear from this potential tornado, but Cannons Point, I don't want you to get too secure with your spot, because these storms, they can wobble to the east or west. So if you lie from Cannons Point, Falls of Rough, potentially over just to about 15, 20 miles to the west, you are in the potential path of this tornado. And right there, that is exactly what we're seeing for a hook echo, is when we get that dry area where that wind starts to wrap itself in, and we could be potentially seeing a funnel cloud, if not a tornado right now with this tornado warning that's in place for the next 35 to 40 minutes. So this is the only tornado warning that we are watching here. Alden, is there any update from the National Weather Service?
No update at the moment, just that general rotation that we're looking at right now, but it is a pretty defined area of, well, at least with the shape of it, pretty defined classic hook echo shape there when it makes that little curve and that little 6 shape. We call that the hook echo, and it's within that little ball that's at the very end between Horace Branch and Jugville that we could see if there were to be a tornado, it would develop in that general area. But for right now, the rotation on this is relatively broad. We're looking at it right here near Horace Branch, and that's going to be tracking again to the really pretty straight northeastward. So if you're in Heights Fall, I would take your tornado shelter precautions. You should be doing so in Jugville. And thankfully, there's not a lot of hail associated with this, but there is still quite a bit of heavy rain. And since these are moving so slowly, we could possibly see some localized areas of flooding, which is going to be something else that we need to keep a close eye on.
Yeah, localized areas of flooding. We're staying updated with the chat. We are getting some photos in of some storms in that area. So again, if you live in this area and you happen to see anything, send that report in. It really, really helps out our community right now. So right now we have that tornado warning in place, Heights Falls. You are in the direct path. Over the next 10 minutes, I need you to go ahead and seek shelter. So Rough River, if Olaton Road sounds familiar to you, you are potentially seeing a tornado head in over this area here over the next 10 to 15 minutes. I'm also going to name out some other communities. We have Green Cemetery. It's a very rural area, so there's not really many landmarks, but I think Highway 54 branching off on 878, if that is familiar to you, that is where that potential tornado is heading. So Horse Branch, you're in the clear. It's now moving over Shiloh Church right now along Highway or Dan Stanton Fork Road. So we went ahead and I zoomed in on some of the communities because if you happen to live in this area, there is a tight space of where we're seeing that potential rotation over Grayson County right now. It hasn't entered Breckenridge County, but you are the next step of this potential tornado. So when it starts to get some of that hook echoes, we could potentially either be seeing a tornado or a funnel cloud, which are the beginning steps of it. So not confirmed just yet, but Yemen is the next community by 3:46 Central Time, 4:36 Eastern Time, and then it'll be heading eventually to Rough River State Park. You have some time though, 4:04 Central Time, you have 20 minutes. This is a slow moving cell, so that can be good because it's only moving at 25 miles per hour. It gives you some more time to go ahead and head into the interior portion of your room, definitely a bathroom or a basement if you have one. Grab some pillows, even bike helmets can help. Even though that this is a weaker cell, it could strengthen and it could impact a community. It only takes one. So right now, this is the only tornado warning that we are watching. I think Heights Fall is that most populated area that it's heading to within the next 10 to 15 minutes. Also want to talk about the heavy rain. You're probably not going to be able to see it if you're on the west side, but if you are on the dry side, you actually might be able to get a view of it. I don't recommend going outside, but it is taking that classic hook echo shape. Hopefully it shows more signs of weakening, but it is producing some heavy rain. I don't think flash flooding is going to be a concern, but if it happens to slow down even more, we'll be focusing on that. A lot of lightning it's producing as well. So looking like it's heading off to the northeast at 25 miles per hour. This tornado warning is in place for Breckenridge and Grayson County. So Breckenridge, Hardinsburg, you are not in the path. It's really just that southwestern quadrant, not in the path, I should say, immediately. You're not in the polygon just yet. But if it happens to continue to hold its strength, you could potentially be in the path. So I want you to go ahead, try not to head out on the roads. Hopefully you're home by now or heading home and staying home tonight for Hardinsburg area, Breckenridge County. In fact, we are all under a tornado watch until midnight. This should deter a lot of people away from going out on the roads. This is southern Indiana, Kentucky. We are dealing with Beryl, the post-tropical system. I know it's not a hurricane, but tornadoes are just as dangerous as a Category 1 hurricane. I'll say it. I grew up in Florida. Hurricane Cat 1 compared to tornadoes, potentially, I think those are equal in parameter when we're talking about lives at stake. So not really seeing an immediate threat. We have no confirmation that it is on the ground. We have no observation on it. So this is radar indicated. What we're just saying, hey, we're seeing some rotation. This could potentially be producing a tornado just west. And looking at that update, it's still holding itself together. It's still pretty broad. Once we get some of those blue and yellow colors starting to pick up, that's when we can go ahead and say, okay, we likely have something on the ground. This case, I think it's broad. I think we could potentially be seeing a funnel cloud or a weaker end, potentially tornado, as it's heading just off to the north and northeast. So Short Creek, it looks like you're very close, but I think you're almost in the clear. It's heading just the north and northeast of you, that intersection that I was just pointing out on Highway 54 and 878. It looks like it's heading right towards that community. And then it looks like it's going to hit Highway 79. That's it's probably a major highway that through this rural area, through Grayson County, Highway 79, we got Highway 736, and then 54 that branches out. So if any of those highways sound familiar to you, or this is your neighborhood, there is a tornado warning in place for the next 30 minutes as we are seeing some broad rotation. So it is moving up in speed right now. That potential tornado is situated right over that intersection where we're starting to get a kink in that reflectivity. Heights fall right now. Potential tornado is over you. I want you to go ahead, grab your family members, head inside, and do not go outside. I don't care if you see a cool or care to get a photo or video of it. Your safety matters most. Interior portion of your room, either your bathroom or your basement. And then the next step, it looks like it's going to be heading potentially towards Cannons Point. We're going to have to wait to see if it go ahead and extend this tornado warning, but we are seeing a lot of rain on the north side of that system with some lightning. Shreve, I don't think you're in the path of that tornado. You're on the northwest side and it's heading off to the east. Dempster, you're not in the clear. When we're talking about a tornado potentially, it could start to move a little bit off to the east and west, especially when we're dealing with some strong south winds. So historically, tornadoes, this is why we have polygons in place, because it can go to the east side of it or the west side. But as of now, if we do have a potential tornado, it is over Heights Falls. Alden?
Something else I'm looking at here is it kind of appears like these two cells are starting to merge with one another. And when you get cell mergers, that can do one of two things. It can disrupt a storm entirely, mess up its circulation, and then it fails to get itself back together, or it can enhance the circulation that's already there. Right now, that circulation is pretty broad and fairly weak, but notice how we're starting to see some of these greens near Short Creek kind of merge into that main hook echo. That's the beginning process of a cell merger. So as the storm continues to move to the northeast, and cross Highway 259 there in southern Breckenridge County, we'll probably see those two storms come together, and hopefully it'll do like what it did earlier in Adair County and just kind of rain itself out and fall apart. Haven't seen anything new in the chat to report at the moment, but that circulation is a lot less tight compared to what it was before when it was passing over Horse Branch. But if you are in Heights Fall, you're probably experiencing a loud thunderstorm. Same for folks that live in Shreve, Falls of Rough, and Dempster, particularly in Dempster. You're starting to see some of that very heavy rain make its way into your town at the moment, as the heaviest of this storm, the core of it, is over Heights Falls right now, just about to exit it, but we'll be crossing in between Shreve and Falls of Rough and along State Highway at 54 towards Dempster. But so far, the storm does not have very tight circulation, which is good. We want it to have that broad circulation. What we look for here, and if there was going to be any circulation, it would be right about here, just to the southeast of Heights Falls, where we have those reds and greens together. That's telling us the winds are coming towards the radar and away from the radar. And if you have them really tight together and you kind of have those two pixels touching up against one another, that's a good sign of some pretty tight rotation. But we don't really see that here right now. We just see some very broad rotation as it's moving up.
You could stay on it, but can you just check Caneyville? The rotation around that area, or it's picking up some wind speeds just to the east of the city. It looks like we're getting some strong winds clocking in around Millwood, east of Caneyville at Highway 62. So that's the strongest winds that we're seeing. That cell could be developing on its own instead of merging. Maybe this could be the beginning stages of a potential second tornado that we're watching here. But I just wanted to point that out to you as I was looking at that radar there. I'm going to check the chat to see if they said anything about that in particular.
Okay, and we are going to have to watch some of those as more isolated areas for potential storm redevelopment. Thankfully, don't see anything that looks quite as hooky down there to the south near Caneyville at the moment, which are still probably experiencing some pretty heavy rain. Not seeing as much lightning associated with that storm either, which is a good thing, because the more lightning that you have, that's an indicator that it's a very strong storm that's also probably strengthening. But we are going to be watching that pretty closely here. And again, that tornado warning goes until 4:15 Central Time, and it looks like they just narrowed down quite a large portion of it. So if you are in Jugville, you're in the clear. Olaton, you're also in the clear. here. Heights Falls, you are in the main path of that tornado warning right now just because of radar indicated rotation. We've not had anything confirmed. We have not seen any debris indicators either, and the rotation has been quite broad. But what we're going to be seeing for the rest of this evening are storms like this, small storms that rotate relatively quickly and could potentially drop a tornado very briefly, similar to what we experienced in West Louisville the other day last week, and then lift back into the cloud before continuing on its way. And this is very typical of tropical systems, as Colleen was saying. This is the remains of what was Hurricane Beryl, then Tropical Storm Beryl, and now it's in a post-tropical cyclone status, which means that it's lost a lot of its tropical characteristics, but it can still bring us some severe weather like this. They had a lot of severe weather yesterday in parts of East Texas, and now we are on, now it's our turn as we're looking at this. So no new updates, I believe, here.
If we could put up Max 3, I want to show post-tropical Beryl just in its entirety and to give you a scope of what we are going to have to deal with here throughout the rest of the evening. The red boxes are tornado watches in place. So when we're talking about a tropical system, there is where that low pressure is, right? And it's circulating counterclockwise around it. St. Louis, you're sitting pretty because they are not dealing with any tornadoes. We are on the dirty side of the system. And if you haven't heard that lingo before, it's typically used in tropical talk when we're talking about the southeast side, where we get the south winds and then we get some of those outer bands that have a lot of spin with it, which is why we're seeing numerous tornado warnings popping up, not only in our area, but there's another tornado warning off in western Kentucky. So it's just that kind of environment. This is why we have that risk, is because of Beryl. Not dealing with a Cat 1 hurricane, but we are dealing with tornadoes, potentially numerous. Now, I do want to say when it comes to tropical systems, we have a lot of spin in our environment, and there's such a thing as having too much spin, which means that they're likely going to be short-lived, they're going to recycle, they're going to strengthen, weaken quickly. So at least we have that on our side, is it's likely going to be a weaker tornado if we happen to see something. We have not seen one confirmed, but we are tracking that one tornado warning in our area. So winds around 30 miles per hour around the core of that system. It's going to move off to the north, and we have some more developing entering the state of Kentucky. So another band from Beryl is entering Paducah, and I think that is what's going to impact us at 8 p.m. tonight, and that's where we could really see the majority of the warnings for the evening. So we don't really typically talk about numerous tornadoes, but when we're talking about a tropical system, that's fair game because that's just the kind of environment we're dealing with. Alden?
Falls of Rough, you are in some of the heaviest rain at the moment, and thankfully this storm does not have the organization that it did once have. Here's a radar loop of the last hour. You can see that classic hook shape that was near Horse Branch really fell apart and kind of retreated into itself as the storm was moving into Grayson County, but still seeing some very broad rotation with it at the moment. And Dempster, you're also about to see some of this heaviest rainfall. Maybe some small hail in it, about nickel size, but otherwise hail is not the largest concern with this storm, thankfully, as it's getting ready to cross into parts of southwesternmost Breckenridge County. So Dempster, you need to be on the lookout for this. It's tracking to the north. We have a new radar update there, and it's just really not looking as well organized as it was. And it's also moving relatively slowly, but we're seeing this storm move to the northeast at 25 miles per hour. So I'll start the track right here around Heights Point and move it up towards Axtell. 4 o'clock for Falls of Rough River State Park. It'll be around that area by 4:05 Central Time. All these times are in Central. Axtell around 4:12, Cave Spring at 4:18, and should it hold together, it'll be in Westview at 4:25 Central Time, up there right underneath the bar at the top of the screen where it says Extreme. That's where Westville is. But otherwise, we do a broader view. We do have a tornado watch for our entire viewing area that goes until midnight tonight, and we're probably going to be cutting in a few other times throughout the course of this evening with some more of these warnings in our area. They have not been particularly long-lasting warnings. The tornado threats have been relatively short-lived when we do get these warnings, but if we do get a quick spin-up, that can cause enough damage. I keep referencing what we had experienced in West Louisville late last week. When you get those quick spin-ups like that, even for just half a mile, they can do quite a good deal of damage.
Yeah, that's for sure. So we're going to be here throughout the rest of the evening tracking the remnants of Beryl. So we are tracking that one storm in particular. This is going to be a long evening as we are seeing multiple cells start to fire up. So if you're tuning in Jefferson County, Louisville, it's been pretty quiet. We really haven't seen too much. And in fact, we're going to have to wait a little bit till some of those cells start to inch its way towards our area. And then we have another wave that's entering western Kentucky that's going to hit our area around 8 p.m. tonight. We are only tracking one tornado warning that's in place. They definitely shortened it a little bit, showing some signs of weakening. However, you should still take the right precautions. If you live in Falls of Rough, this potential rotation is just leaving Heights Fall right now. So pretty broad rotation with this cell, but we still want to take those precautions. That's good that we're seeing broad rotation, and that's good that it's a weaker one. I think if we see other indications of it strengthening, we'll let you know, but I think it's still a good idea to go ahead and stay inside, go to the basement if you have one. If you have a bathroom or interior portion of your home, that is always a good area. So Falls of Rough here over the next 20 minutes, that's where if we're going to see a potential tornado, maybe a weaker one, or a funnel cloud, that's where it will be. It's starting to weaken out, kind of blowing itself out, which means it's not really having that hook shape all that much. However, it only takes one scan or 2 minutes to really see it develop a little bit more. As you can see, we kind of just saw it develop and starting to get that little kink. So I think it's trying to maintain and trying to continue to hold that strength. So I think it's good that they extended this warning until 5:15. So we still have 20 more minutes of tracking this potential tornado. So definitely Dempster and Falls of Rough over the next 20 minutes, you potentially have a tornado heading your way. So looking at the velocity, it's kind of blowing itself out, so it is still showing signs of weakening, but again, it's still kind of remaining over the Heights Fall area of seeing that broad rotation. If we're going to see a potential tornado, it is going to be over that community. So again, it is going to follow Highway 110, 736, Highway 79. This is a rural community, just to get your bearings right. That's Grayson County, and you can see following that river there, the north side of it, that is Breckenridge County. So it looks like this broad rotation, this nasty thunderstorm that's producing a lot of rain and potentially some strong winds with it. And it could be starting to strengthen a little bit. It's disorganized right now. We're not seeing a specific area, but if we happen to see something, it's going to be right in that kink there that's leaving Heights Fall right now. In just about 10 minutes, it's going to be over Falls of Rough. Dempster, you are seeing a lot of heavy rain right now, so even if you have potentially that tornado over you over the next 15 minutes, it's going to be hard to hear because you're kind of on that wet side of this cell. Cannons Point, it looks like you're almost in the clear. That cell is heading just the north and northeast, heading towards Falls of Rough and then Axtell potentially. So Cannons Point, you're almost in the clear of this cell, but you are on that south side. Do not go ahead and head out on the roads. I'm not saying that, but just keep that in mind that you are very close to this tornado warned storm that is in effect until 20 more minutes, until 5:15 Eastern time, 4:15 Central time. So we're going to continue to watch this cell as it produces a lot of heavy rain, a lot of lightning with it along Highway 110 specifically. Almost in the clear for Heights Fall. In fact, I can actually go ahead and say Heights Fall, you are in the clear. That potential tornado will have already left your community here over the past 5 minutes. So that is good. Okay, we have a new tornado warning in place for that area that I mentioned around Caneyville. It looks like it's starting to form a little bit more. So Alden, what is National Weather Service saying about this one that's just issued?
That new tornado warning is for County, southeastern Breckenridge County, and west central Hardin County until 5:45 Eastern Time. Radar indicated rotation. It's located 7 miles to the west of Litchfield and moving northeast at 35 miles per hour. So this one is moving just a little bit faster, and I'll put on our velocity here to look for any potential rotation. And if we saw anything, it would probably be right around here. I'm going to draw it on there. Yeah, that's about 7 miles to the west of Litchfield. So I'll put a storm track on that as it's moving to the northeast at 35 miles per hour. That's a little bit faster than some of these other storms that we've been looking at. Hanging Rock at 4:10. Centerview at 4:18. Hudson at 4:22. Constantine at 4:27. Those are Central Time. Western Consolidated School at 5:27 p.m. Eastern Time. That's in western Hardin County. Dyer at 4:30 Central, and Howe Valley at 5:38 Eastern Time. That's again also in western Hardin County. But if we look at our radar signature, again, the normal view, it doesn't look that imposing on a regular radar view, which is why we have to look at our velocity speeds, our wind speeds now and then, because that's where you can better see where some of that rotation is. So 7 miles to the west of Litchfield, that would be that little spot right there, and I'll throw our velocity back on there. And it's going to be this area right there. It's kind of to the northwest of Millwood. It'll cross State Highway 54 towards State Highway 737. And if it maintains its track, it would also be crossing State Highway 259 in time. But Litchfield, you are currently in the warning. No, you are not in the warning. So Litchfield, you are in the clear. You are not in this warning. However, Short Creek, you technically are in this warning. Cobbler's Knob, you're in the warning. Hanging Rock, Evely, you're also there. Hardin Springs, Centerview, McCoy, Constantine, Pierce Mill, Lemp. These are all towns that are within that tornado warning that goes until 5:45 p.m. Eastern Time right now. And that second storm that's to the west of it that we had been tracking appears to continue to weaken and will soon be moving out of the polygon. And I don't see any discussion about them issuing a new downstream warning for that one. In fact, they just said they're going to let it go. So it does not look quite as strong as before. But now, as we take a broader view of the region, most of this severe activity to our southwest of Metro Louisville, right there along the Rough River north of Litchfield is where we have quite a bit of heavy rainfall. To the west of Litchfield is where we have that potential circulation. And Evely seeing some of that very heavy rain right now. Centerview will be moving into your region pretty soon. We don't have much in the way of lightning either. If we see more lightning within a thunderstorm, that's telling us that it's either growing in strength or it's a pretty strong storm. So right now, that's all that we are looking at currently. But no reports of any damage, but it's this area here near Millwood that we are keeping our eyes closest on.
It's definitely an interesting cell there when we're dealing with the tropical system because, I mean, we're dealing with strong south winds. So that's when we get some of that disorganization when it comes to tornado warnings. I mean, we are seeing that broad rotation right there for seeing a potential tornado, but also we're seeing some strong winds trying to gust inside of it and show signs of strengthening. So when we're talking about a system like this, it's trying to organize, and there it is right there. You can see those stronger winds clocking in right now. When we get some of those blue colors over Hanging Rock right now, we're clocking in 73 miles per hour. Now this is a little bit higher up in our atmosphere, so it could be producing 60 to 65 at the surface right now. So we are seeing some strong winds picking up right now over Hanging Rock. This is just south of Everly where this tornado warning is in place. So I think that originally it was that rotation there, but the storm is kind of recycling to having more of that rotation on this side of it, and this is potentially where we could have a tornado right now or the next minute or so. So it's interesting dealing with these kinds of storms and tropical systems where all of a sudden rotation is there and then it's on the other side. But right now, if we're seeing a potential tornado, it is over Hanging Rock, and it happened very quickly. Now we are seeing some strong winds. Reflectivity, I mean, it's not looking like it's all lining up together, so it's a very disorganized system. So we just have to go off of what we're seeing. we're not really seeing the reflectivity lining up where that strong winds are right now. So we are seeing the strongest of winds over Hanging Rock. That is where potentially we are seeing some winds and potentially some rotation off to the south of this storm. So it's an interesting system. I think if you live in any of these communities right now, you should head to the interior portion of your room. Hanging Rock, Everly, this tornado-warned cell. It's disorganized to say the least, but it is producing some strong winds along Highway 259 and 737. So right now, you should try to stay off the roads because we are seeing the strongest winds over Hanging Rock. But again, where that initial rotation of that cell is, will be heading your way at 4:09 p.m. So seeing some signs of strengthening when we start to get some of those stronger wind gusts. Mount Gillard School, you have until 4:14 p.m. Central Time, 5:15 p.m. Eastern Time. And then it's eventually going to make its way towards Hudson right now. So one tornado warning is in place in our area. This is the community of Grayson County, entering Harding County, as well as clipping a portion of Breckenridge County right now. So these are the communities that are in the path of this potential tornado warning storm. It's not your classic look, but we are seeing strong winds picking up along it and inside of the cell, and potential where that rotation might be starting to organize there. Alden?
Yeah, I'm looking at our radar analysis again, and kind of like before, we do have some of those potentially gusting winds near Hanging Rock, but the main circulation that we were looking at earlier was back to the southwest of that. Not quite seeing that as organized as before, and that's going to kind of be the going theme that we see here throughout this evening. These storms that pop up, they begin to rotate relatively quickly. We see some of those reds and greens together, which indicate some tight circulation, and if they did produce a tornado, they would be very brief, down and up in a relatively short amount of time. This does not necessarily look like the type of environment where we would have a long track tornado, thankfully, but you still have to keep your guard up when we are in a situation like this, because you never know when those storms could produce something pretty quickly. Looking back at our regular radar view, Cobbler's Knob, you're seeing some very heavy rainfall at the moment. Hanging Rock, it looks like you are currently in the clear of any rain. Evely, you're also seeing that torrential rainfall at the moment. I don't see any discussion in here really about hail, so hail size should be probably about a nickel or less, so less than a quarter size in diameter, which would be considered severe, thankfully. So that should not be causing any type of hail damage. But a radar loop here of the last hour, it's going to be this area here approaching Highway 737 that we're keeping the closest eye on. There's some more lightning right there along the Rough River. That's what that squiggly line is. And as it continues to the northeast, we'll see some more potential hail developing with it, continued very heavy rainfall, and these storms are moving pretty slowly, only at about 35 miles per hour. That's good. That can be a good thing, and it can also be a bad thing. It's good in that it gives you a lot more lead time, so you have a lot more time to take the necessary shelter precautions. It can also be unfortunate because if it's producing a lot of heavy rainfall, then you could look at a situation where you have some localized areas of flooding, but so far I have not heard of any flooding problems at the moment. So we're just watching this little circulation that's to the west and northwest of Litchfield right now, making its way towards Hanging Rock. And it's actually kind of interesting because you can make out where some inflow is going into that main area of circulation. So Hanging Rock, you're in the area of most concern right now, so you should go ahead and be in your safe spot. Evely, you should be as well, and I'll get in a little bit tighter here and put another track on this. It's moving to the northeast at 35 miles per hour from around roughly that location. So Lilac at 4:10 Central Time, Conklin School just before 4:15 Central Time, Evely, same story, 4:14, and Mount Gillard School at 4:16 Central Time. So all of those areas need to be taking their tornado safety precautions. That's the lowest level, most interior room of whatever building you're in, away from those outside walls and windows. And in fact, we can go ahead and take Max 1 full so you can look at some of those tornado safety precautions. You want to be in that sturdy shelter, away from windows, preferably in the basement. If you're in a mobile home, that's one of the worst places you can be. You want to find a sturdier shelter beforehand. So this is where having that longer lead time is going to work in your favor. Severe weather safety kit, first aid, a flashlight, some candles. You want your cell phone to be charged. And if you do need to take that shelter, cover up with some pillows or blankets or anything else that could be used to block that debris. And as a general reminder, we have a tornado watch across our viewing area in place until midnight tonight. This includes the entire WHAS 11 viewing area from Bedford and Seymour towards North Vernon all the way down to Columbia and Metro Louisville right there in the middle. So it's probably going to be a somewhat long evening for us, as if we don't see continual warning after warning, we're likely going to find ourselves cutting in periodically throughout the night as we continue to see post-tropical storm Beryl cause all of these problems for this evening in the form of that really heavy rain.
Yeah, if we can go ahead and take Max 3, let's talk about post-tropical Beryl. This is the impacts that we are going to see. Right now, Beryl is 30 miles per hour. Where that central low pressure is off to the west. It's over St. Louis, and we're here over Louisville. All the boxes on your screens, that is a tornado watch. So almost the whole state of Kentucky is under this tornado watch, and right now we have 3 warnings in place. 1 in Indiana, 2 in Kentucky, and that 1 is in our area, and we are watching more development not only about to enter our area but entering Paducah. That is going to be, I think, the main event for us. One of those stronger bands is holding itself together for Beryl, and when we get the south winds of this system, that's when we can really start to spin up numerous tornadoes, which is what we're potentially seeing right now. So walking you through that forecast model, we'll get you back to that tornado warning that's in place, but I do want to let everybody know, because this is a large area that we're dealing with this tornado watch. By 6, 7 o'clock, we'll continue to deal with those individual cells. But what I just showed you that's entering Paducah, that will be entering our area around 8 o'clock tonight. I think if we're going to see multiple warnings at a time, it's going to be from 8 to 10 p.m. tonight. So entering Bedford, Paoli, English, and Brandenburg around that time, we're going to get the south winds really strong with Beryl. So that's what's really creating the spin. Now, the good thing about tropical systems, it's disorganized. There's such a thing as too much wind, and there's not a lot of organization with it, so it'll likely be short-lived, but it could still produce damage in your neighborhood, which is our impacts from Beryl here from now until midnight. Going to be crossing Jefferson County around 9 p.m. and then entering Madison, Newcastle, down to Bardstown by 10, 11 o'clock. Now, the tornado watch, it expires at midnight. This is what the forecast model looks like at 1 o'clock, and it's pretty on par with having it clear out by midnight, so we'll be able to sleep easy throughout the rest of the night. So that tornado watch is in place until midnight tonight. We could switch it back over to Max 1 so we can track that tornado warning that's in place right now over Cobbler's Knob. This is where we're seeing that potential rotation. I mean, this is a lot of rain being picked up. Very disorganized. As I just mentioned, our environment's kind of crazy when we have a tropical system out, so it takes a lot for it to really stay organized, but that's not to say that it can drop a tornado in an instant and it could impact your community. So here's what I want you to do. If you're in Centerview, I want you to go ahead and head to your basement. A potential tornado is heading right to your neighborhood right now. If we're seeing any rotation, I think it's going to be right around Cobbler's Knob, but we're also seeing some strong winds being picked up from that south wind from Beryl. So we don't really typically see tornado warning cells that look like this. So it's a little difficult to pinpoint exactly where, but I think if we're having a tornado on the ground, it's over Cobbler's Knob and it's moving to Centerview, and that's exactly where we're seeing this rotation, right over Cobbler's Knob. Pretty broad. I mean, about radius, I'm thinking it's about 10 miles in radius of that broad rotation. So it's showing some signs of rotation, but there's nothing tight. When we get a tight couplet of some strong winds picked up, that's when we can go ahead and say, hey, I think that there's a tornado on the ground. With this, I think it's possible that we are seeing some broad rotation, and it is possible that it can be producing a weaker end tornado. But as of now, Centerview, you are in the direct path. You have about 5 minutes to head inside. Take this seriously, because this is a tornado warning that's in place, and it's heading right to your neighborhood. You're already hearing that heavy rain. You're already probably seeing that lightning that's associated with this cell. So we'll be heading right along Highway 401, just about to head towards Mount Gillard School by 4:14 Central Time, 5:15 Eastern Time. It's 5:11 right now, so you have about a few minutes to head inside. And then we'll be heading to Constantine. You have some time, 4:25 Central Time, 5:25 Eastern Time. This one is moving a little bit quicker. I think it's getting some of those stronger winds, kind of making it push on a little bit quicker than the other cells that we were tracking. So that's good in the sense that it's not going to linger, but you don't have as much warning time with this system. So then it's going to head towards Dyer here by 4:30 p.m. Central Time. And I believe this tornado warning expires, is that 5:15 or is it 5:30? So
it's 5:45 Eastern Time.
5:45 Eastern Time. Okay, that's right, Central Time. So 5:45 Eastern Time. So we have 30 more minutes with this tornado warning that is in place. Now, if you live in Jefferson County or tuning in Louisville, you do not have any warning over your area, but this tornado watch is until midnight, so we can see more cells develop. So let's go ahead and check on that rotation. Right now, we are getting some rotation being picked up over Centerview. You have a potential tornado over your neighborhood right now. Hanging Rock, you're in the clear. Cobbler's Knob, you're in the clear. Constantine, you are in the next path of this potential rotation heading your way. Going to kind of head right along Highway 401, Highway 84. So right now, if you live from Seary to Centerview, just to the east of it, I think Limp, you're in the clear on Highway 920. And it's going to get very close to Pierce Mill, but I still want you to go ahead and head inside just because you're a little bit too close. If it happens to tread off farther to the east, it could clip your neighborhood, but it looks like it's kind of on that due northeast path. Barras to Constantine, Centerview to Seary. Those are the communities that are in the immediate path of this potential tornado that is producing some broad rotation. We are getting some winds being picked up around 30 to 40 miles per hour. It could be a little bit stronger because this is a radar view, and also there's a lot of kind of rain situated over that rotation. So it's looking out on the weaker side when it's not really organized on reflectivity all day. I mean, I'm not really seeing a clear hook with this system where that rotation is lining up. It's kind of lining up where the rain is.
I would agree. And again, we're seeing quite a bit of lightning with these storms as well. So these are relatively electric thunderstorms. And when you have a lot of lightning, that's telling you that the storm has quite a bit of strength with it. And it's also probably somewhat tall. But much like before, we are seeing this storm kind of go through a cycle. It's going through a life cycle here. It's not quite as organized as it was. There is still a lot of very heavy rain with it, so it's still a very strong thunderstorm, but that rotation within it is not as strong as it once was. But we could still see some new areas of rotation pull up here. As for any damage reports, no damage reports currently, according to Grayson County Emergency Management. Fire departments are in the area and they're checking out for any potential damage, but thankfully nothing new to report there at the moment. Constantine, Centerview, Evely, Hanging Rock, you're all experiencing some torrential rainfall at the moment as this storm continues to move relatively slowly to the northeast at only about 35 miles per hour. And if we had any area of rotation, it's probably going to be right here just off of Highway 401 in Breckenridge County, I believe that is, and continuing off to the northeast. So we're looking at Hardin County right here on the right, and as that continues kind of parallel to Highway 401, that's where we're going to see that greatest risk of potential tornado development. But as of now, that rotation is relatively broad, and what we're seeing instead is some very heavy rainfall at the moment. But it does kind of take on that classic supercell look. You have your main rain core here. You also have your rotating area possibly down here to the south, sort of picking up that hook shape. But as we continue into time here, does not really appear as if we're seeing too much in the way of anything that's too dangerous right now, but you still need to be taking this storm seriously and get into your tornado safe spot right now.
Yeah, We're checking for updates on that storm because it is showing some signs of weakening, but we have to take all tornado warnings seriously. I mean, this is still a violent thunderstorm. I mean, a severe thunderstorm warning can produce just as much damage as a weekend EF0 or EF1 tornado. So Short Creek, right now you're in the clear, but we are tracking this tornado warning that's in place until 5:45. So we still have 30 more minutes, but if we get some information that they're going to go ahead and let it expire, then we're going to return you back to the newscast and keep you updated here from our First Alert Storm Weather team. So right now this tornado warning is continuing to move off to the north and northeast. A lot of heavy rain is associated with it. Not picking up as much lightning, but we might have that lightning tag off. So just know that we have some heavy rain and potential tornado that's situated just east and south of Hardinsburg. So Hardinsburg, a more populated community, you are not in the path of this potential tornado. A lot of lightning being picked up along Highway 401 right now, zooming on into that potential area of rotation. You know, it's not super clear of an area, which is good, not because that means it's a weaker cell, right? So right now we are seeing broad rotation, Hardin Springs, Centerview, down to Everly. Right now, Pierce Mill, I need all of these communities stay off the roads, please. If it's 5 o'clock, you're just getting off work, maybe you're watching this at work, do not try to head home. I know you want to get home from work, but I promise you wait this out. Heavy rain could cause visibility issues, and also this could be transitioning into some flash flooding potentially, especially in a rural area where there's a lot of vegetation around and some low-lying roads. So we also have to take that into account. Do not travel on Highway 401 right now, Highway 84, where this tornado warned storm is in place. Constantine, you are in that next path of that broad rotation that is heading your way where a potential tornado is taking place. So we are seeing some rotation. You know, these storms, I mean, it doesn't take much for it to recycle and drop a tornado, especially in a tropical system. So we have to really monitor these storms with each single run, because right now you kind of see that little divot in that storm. That's winds trying to blow into it and trying to organize that rotation that we're seeing. So it's trying to organize. And the next few scans, we're going to try to see right where I was just pointing at, that's where it's trying to kind of develop there over Hardin Springs. So just all of a sudden, what was situated over Centerview, this thunderstorm is now picking up rotation on the southeast side of that storm. So that is an indication that not only is the reflectivity lining up, which is that rain that we were just showing with you, the red colors and that dry spot, is also lining up with that rotation. Hardin Springs right now, you might have a potential tornado over your neighborhood as we speak. It is showing us some signs of strengthening over your area. We're starting to see those clouds rotate over your community. So I need you to go ahead and get to that safe place, head inside. It's right over your neighborhood right now. So now instead of Constantine, we're more concerned about Pierce Mill as it heads off to the east and southeast right now. So if we potentially have a tornado, it is right over Hardin Spring. I think it's good to stay on this area because we want to see what the latest scans are. We are getting some of that kind of rotation around it. It's starting to potentially form over Hardin Springs right now as it continues to move off to the east. And it's still very disorganized. It's still weak, but those are the indications that we look at. Okay, is it going to strengthen? Is it going to weaken? Are we seeing a tornado on the ground, or is it just potential? There has been no reports of damage. There has been no reports of any observation of this tornado. So I do want to make that clear. This is not a confirmed tornado. This is a potential. So that's when we go and, okay, what's going on? We are seeing some rotation starting to strengthen around this community, and that's where we could potentially see some of those reports come in. But we have our chats open with the National Weather Service, Emergency Management. We have a full team here, and we're going to update you if we happen to see any damage reported in this area. But as of now, broad rotation starting to strengthen over that community. Pierce Mill right now, over the next 5 to 10 minutes, you are in the path of this potential tornado that is heading your way. Alden, if we could put a track on it to see what this new area of rotation is heading, and Howie Valley is also potentially, and maybe it's going to go outside of the tornado polygon that we're watching. So those are the two communities that need to try to stay inside. Pierce Mill, you have about 5 minutes to head inside, and then Howie Valley, if it continues to strengthen, we're going to have to let you know to go inside your basement, stay inside your house, and try to avoid this potential tornado that we are watching. This is the remnants of Beryl. This is what we're seeing from this post-tropical system that is forming a lot of stronger rain bands around that system across our community right now. So if we could go ahead and switch it over to Max 3 real quick so we can see what's going on with Beryl. Tornado watch is in place for the majority of Kentucky and southern Indiana. 30-mile-per-hour winds. The central core of this system is off to the west, heading towards St. Louis. We're on the dirty side of the system, meaning the south-southeast quadrant of a low-pressure system, particularly tropics. That's where we get some of those stronger rain bands that can spin up numerous tornadoes along this tropical system, post-tropical system. So we're not dealing with a Cat 1 hurricane, but we're dealing with tornado watch. Multiple tornado warnings are in place, one specifically in our area. So really St. Louis, Champaign, the areas that are in the direct path of it are going to see far less impacts than the state of Kentucky because of this potential tornado threat in our community. So we're going to keep you updated until midnight. That tornado watch will expire at that time. Really just that one tornado warning that we're watching here in our area. Alden.
They have gone ahead and dropped the tornado warning for Grayson County. So if you're in Grayson County, you're no longer in the threat of this storm. It's now portions of western and southwestern Hardin County that we're going to be keeping the closest eye on for that potential rotation that we were looking at. It's right here south of Constantine, to the west of Pierce Mill, and to the east of Hudson. So you can almost triangulate right there, and it's going to be right there on the Hardin and Breckenridge County line, moving to the northeast. These are all moving relatively slowly, only about 35 miles per hour. That gives you a lot of lead time to take shelter and take the necessary precautions. But if you are experiencing some very heavy rainfall, if it lasts long enough, then you could see some localized areas of flooding, which is what you don't want. Now, if we look at the regular radar view that you're most common to seeing, it doesn't look very organized. It looks kind of haphazard a little bit, but there's still just enough broad rotation within that cell that they have that tornado warning in place until 5:45 p.m. Eastern time. So because these storms are so slow moving, that's also why we have these warnings that are in place for very long as well. A broader view of our area shows really quickly up in Scott County. There's a thunderstorm there near Underwood. That's really it. Nothing is severe with that, but Underwood, you're experiencing some very heavy rain, maybe some briefly gusty winds. Also just to the west of Grayson County there in Ohio County, we're going to be watching this storm. It's weakened a tad, so that's good news. It's moving into an environment that's already had several thunderstorms. So this is the main storm that we're keeping our eye on. That tornado warning for eastern parts of Breckenridge County, western parts of Hardin County until 5:45 Eastern time. And if we look at the velocity again, still really somewhat broad. It's trying to tighten up just a little bit, but we don't see anything that's giving us a definitive confirmation that there would be a tornado. And just to be on the safe side, we'll go ahead and check out the debris tracker. I don't expect us to detect anything. Yeah, nothing's being picked up there with the debris tracker, which is good news at the moment. But I will go ahead and put another track on this storm as it moves to the northeast at 35 miles per hour. This is roughly the area that's looking at that rotation. Big Spring at 4:45 at Central Time, Flaherty at 5:52 Eastern Time, and McKendree College right there on the top right of your screen just before 6 o'clock Eastern Time, assuming the storm maintains its current strength. But otherwise, we have not had any reports of damage, thankfully. I have not seen much in the way of power outages either. Main wind speeds are the main hazards with a lot of these storms will be those 60-mile-per-hour wind speeds and hail that's so far been less than an inch in diameter. And if you have hail that's smaller than the size of a quarter, then you're going to be less likely to see any potential damage from that to your car, your roof, or any siding. So we're going to continue to keep a close eye on this. Constantine, you're seeing that heavy rainfall right now, and Pierce Mill, it'll be moving into your area, that potential area of circulation here relatively soon, as we're looking at this spot right here south of Constantine, north of Hardin Springs.
Yeah, so that's good that it's still showing some signs of weakening around Constantine and Pierce Mill. Checked with the chat at the National Weather Service, and they said we were going to cancel it, but then a new area of rotation in that thunderstorm started to fire up, which is what we were talking about and showed you live on TV just there. So over Constantine right now, some broad rotation being picked up. So I do want to check Louisville, Alden, if we can zoom on out to Jefferson County. I know we have a lot of people tuning in at 5:30 p.m. This is that one area that we're watching to the south. There's nothing here in Louisville, but just to the north, there are 2 thunderstorms that are starting to fire up. And right now, our environment is starting to peak for tornadic development. I mean, look at Evansville, 1, 2, 3 tornado warnings in place, and that's going to continue to head off to the east. So this is going to be the case here for the next 6 to 7 hours until midnight of seeing a good environment for producing not only one, but potentially numerous tornadoes. We have not seen any damage reports. We have not seen any confirmed tornadoes out there. This is a tropical system, so a lot of those tornadoes, even though we might have multiple warnings, are going to be at the weaker side. So we might not even get a confirmed tornado and have 5 tornado warnings in place. We're seeing rotation with these storms, so at least we have the weaker tornado threat in place for this evening. However, it only takes one tornado to really start to fire up and organize and could bring damage to your community. So we're also talking about the threat of that happening. So we want to make sure that you're taking this seriously. This is a tropical system, a post-tropical barrel. So we are still dealing with the rain bands moving from the south. We have a lot of rotation in our environment, so we are taking this seriously. The one area that's dealing with that tornado warning is kind of moving off to the south side of that tornado warned area. And if we are seeing any rotation, it's right over Constantine, where it's trying to start to develop right there. If we happen to have a tornado, it's going to be in that quadrant right there, just east of Constantine, and that's going to be heading off to the east and northeast. It's starting to get some winds starting to circle around that area, so if that continues to develop, potentially we're going to have to keep our eyes not only on the velocity but the debris tracker, so we're able to say, hey, okay, we think that this is confirmed on the ground and let you know immediately. That's not the case just yet, and hopefully that's not going to be the case. Hopefully it starts to blow itself out, because our environment, when it comes to tropical systems, it's all not that organized, even though there's a lot of spin out there.
And some ground truth from around Custer near KY, Kentucky 401 and 86 is just heavy rain with wind speeds up to maybe 30 miles per hour. So that's good ground truth. That's telling us that we might have this somewhat decent circulation right here, and we might have some higher wind speeds, but that does not necessarily mean that it's translating to the surface. And hopefully that's what we're experiencing here it was in Custer, those wind speeds of around 20 to 25 miles per hour near 401 and 86. So this is also kind of near Dyer at the moment. But you are seeing some of that very heavy rainfall. Would not be surprised if we had some localized flooding issues, just because it's raining so heavily and these storms are moving so slowly, only at about 35 miles per hour. So that's giving these storms a lot of time to just really rain down in your neighborhood. And we still do need the rainfall, but what we don't need are any flooding problems with it. So I'm going to look at velocity again. It's this rotation near Constantine. That's what we're keeping our eye on the closest. And I'm going to put a little storm track on this as it moves off to the northeast. While I couldn't pick up anything there, I'll zoom out just a tad. Could be making its way towards the Four Corners area. So Vertrees around 5:38 and 5:45 for Four Corners, which is also when this warning is set to expire. So we have still about another 15 minutes that we're going to be tracking this.
Yeah, and I'll be curious to see if it continues to show signs of rotation, because if that's the case, they might go ahead and extend that tornado warning that is in place for this community. So Vertrees and Howe Valley, you guys are still in the path of this potential tornado. We're seeing some rotation, some heavy rain, regardless if it's producing a tornado or not, because we have no confirmation of that happening. There was a spotter that was near that storm and said, we're getting 34-mile-per-hour winds. We're not really seeing anything out there, so that is good that we don't have any confirmation from it. However, this is still a nasty thunderstorm that we need to really focus on and stay close attention to right now. So I do want to name out some communities. Highway 920, that looks like where that rotation is heading to your area, just as it heads off to Vertrees. The Vertrees area, so if this is familiar, along Hardin's Road and Salt River Road, that intersection right there, that's where it looks like it's heading towards, along Highway 86 and 920 right now over the next 10 to 20 minutes. So those are the communities that are in the path of this potential tornado right now. As Alden puts a track on this storm, yeah, it could potentially be producing a tornado, and you know what, in the next 2 to 4 minutes it could continue to strengthen and all of a sudden drop one very quickly. I mean, we are in a post-tropical environment where it does not take much to produce a quick spinner. So Vertrees, you have until 5:37 p.m. You have 5 minutes to head inside. I know there's a gas station at that intersection. Honeydew Shack is what it's called, a convenience store on Hardinsburg Road and Salt River Road. So if you're around that community or that sounds familiar, head inside and try not to head out on the road, because not only is this producing potentially some strong winds with a potential tornado, but a lot of heavy rain with it. So when we combine heavy rain and also some strong winds with it, that's what can cause some crashes. We do not want you out on any of these roads, especially when we're starting to see it kind of formulate a little bit more, not really showing much concern, but we're going to watch it to see if it continues to develop right there as it starts to come together. The rotation is getting a little bit tighter around that area. So we don't have any confirmation. We haven't had any damage reports, so it's likely not on the ground by now, but also it is also a very rural area. We did have a spotter on 401 right there that did report. We're not seeing much, 30-40-mile-per-hour winds, some heavy rain. So that's good that it wasn't on the ground then, but we are going to have to watch it because the environment is there to develop further. So Howe Valley, just off to the east, is in that path, and then we also have that area of that intersection of Vertrees right there. So I'm going to go ahead and step off and give you the view of this track. Four Corners, 5:48 p.m. Eastern time right now. We are now in the Eastern time zone. Rineyville Elementary. If Rineyville is your local community, heads up. You are potentially in the path of this tornado that could be starting to formulate a little bit more. Now, it is not confirmed. We have not seen any confirmed reports of a tornado, but we are in a post-tropical environment where we have kind of rotation out there. And then we're going to have to focus on, by 6 o'clock in about 35 minutes, North Park Elementary and then Radcliffe, those communities just east of Four Corners. But Alden, I'm not seeing a tight area of rotation. I think it's still broad. That's good that we had that report, that there hasn't been any sight on it of seeing a tornado in that community. But again, we're in that kind of environment where it could happen quickly.
I want to put radar into motion here over the last hour, because you can once again, and I'll slow this down, because you can once again see how these storms are producing a fairly developed and pronounced hook, and then they're kind of weakening and looking more like a blob rather than that kind of sixth shape that we see with these strong storms. So if I drag this back here and then slowly drag it forward, you can see it was right about here that it was beginning to look its most threatening as it was crossing Grayson County and the parts of Breckenridge and Hardin County, kind of right there along the Rough River. And then as it continued to move along the Grayson and Breckenridge County lines, it started to lose some of that characteristic shape, supercell shape to it, but still has been producing some pretty gusty winds. And we're now seeing this also continue to weaken, or I should not say weaken. We're seeing the storm kind of shrink in size just a little bit as it kind of maybe is beginning to rain itself out and collapse upon itself, which would then produce the potential for some very gusty winds. But right now there are still 10 minutes left on that tornado warning. I haven't seen any discussion about extending it downstream right now, but we have had some pretty pronounced rotation in parts of rural Hardin County, parts of rural Grayson County, and parts of Breckenridge County. So Constantine, you're about to exit some of the very heavy rainfall. Dyer, you're still close to the core of it. Custer, where we had that earlier report, also seeing some torrential rainfall. Vertrees, you're going to get some brief heavy rain. Howe Valley, I think you're just going to be on the outside of this, so you are probably just going to get skirted by it. But Vertrees, I would still be in that tornado safe spot right now, just because you are going to be close to that area of rotation. But as we were saying earlier, it looks a lot more broad than what it did before, and you want broad rotation, because once you start to get that rotation to really tighten up a little bit and you get to kind of couple it where those greens and reds are hugging onto each other, that's when you have that much greater potential there to see a tornado. So as the storm continues to evolve, we could be looking at more of a straight line wind threat, which would mean wind speeds of 60 miles per hour or more. Thankfully, hail has not been a big concern today. It's been less than a quarter size, which is good. That means it's unlikely to be causing any damage, but you would certainly hear it. And these are probably fairly loud storms, as there's going to be a good deal of lightning in these. But even that, we're seeing that lightning begin to diminish a little bit as it makes its way towards Big Spring right now. So as we see less lightning, that's also an indicator that the storm maybe is not as strong as it once was. So could be going through a life cycle, could be cycling here, but still something we're going to keep a close eye on as this tornado warning goes until 5:45 Eastern time. And our current time is 5:37.
Yeah, we have about 6 minutes left of this tornado warning, and we haven't seen any indication that they're going to extend this tornado warning. So we'll be getting you back to our news programming and, of course, keeping you updated with the radar through it, because this is the only warning that we are tracking here across Louisville. We are dealing with post-tropical barrel producing numerous tornado warnings across our area. We haven't really seen that tight area of rotation in any of them. Again, in a tropical system, typically it produces numerous tornado warnings, but if it happens to produce a tornado, it's likely on that weaker side, just with the kind of environment that we are in. But it only takes one tornado to strengthen, to cause damage to your community, which is kind of why we are focusing on from now until midnight when this tornado watch will expire. So this is the edge of that tornado warning. Now, I think we're going to have a decision here over the next few minutes if they're going to extend it or go ahead and let it expire. So we're going to watch the next few scans, because I think that's what's also going to determine is it showing signs of strengthening? Is it just broad rotation? Because as Alden was mentioning, it could be transitioning to more of a straight line wind event, meaning it's producing some strong winds, but it's not tight enough to where it's producing a potential tornado. So good news for those communities, but you're still dealing with a nasty thunderstorm that has a lot of rain with it, that has a lot of lightning, that also is picking up those winds. And you can even see it kind of blowing itself out when you get that rotation, kind of do that line up with one another, going left and right. That's not showing too much rotation anymore in the storm. So it's transitioning to more of a severe thunderstorm warning than a potential tornado warning. So this is going to be in place until 5:40 in just about a minute. Alden, do we have a decision on that yet?
They're debating that right now. So that warning goes until 5:45, but we'll see if they want to issue a new warning downstream of that at the moment. If there was going to be anything particularly dangerous, it'd be near the Vertrees area to the south of Four Corners. I'm kind of leaning on the side that they're going to want to issue a new warning downstream of this, just because we're still seeing that potential area of rotation, particularly right here along Kentucky 920, making its way toward Four Corners. So if you're in Four Corners, you should be taking your tornado safety precautions right now. That's the lowest level, most interior portion of your home, away from any outside walls and window. You want to put as much space in between those walls and yourself as possible. I'll do another storm track on this as well, because it's only moving at about 35 miles per hour, so quite slowly, really. In Four Corners at 5:44, St. Bridget's School at 5:56, and Vine Grove around at 6 o'clock, just before 6 o'clock there at also 5:56. So these storms have had a history of producing quite a bit of rotation within the storm. We've not had any reports of a tornado actually on the ground. We have had some pictures of some what appear to be wall clouds, or at least some lowering within the clouds, but nothing has been reported as confirmed damage. Only heavy rain for the most part. Some minimally gusting wind speeds. We had an early report out of Custer of only about 30 mile per hour wind speeds, which really is not that bad. But it's going to be near Vertrees right now, and it's starting to maybe take on a little bit more of that classic hook shape there, right along Kentucky Highway 920. So it's almost moving directly parallel with it towards Four Corners. So you are in the target zone right now in Four Corners. Go ahead and be in that safe spot. As a general reminder, we have that tornado watch in place until midnight for our entire WHAS 11 viewing area. The only tornado warning that we have right now is this one that we've been tracking for about the last 45 minutes or so, right there on the Breckenridge and Harding County lines, split right down in between the middle of them. But again, we have not seen any damage reports, thankfully, and our main concern is going to be this little area of circulation right here that I'm going to get in on really closely. So this is right along Kentucky Highway 920. So if we did have any potential tornado or the setup for one, it'd be right there where we have this little couplet here that has kind of tightened up a little bit within the last few radar scans, and radar's updating about every 2 to 3 minutes. So that's why we're getting these updates when they come, and you occasionally see that radar image move. But there's only 3 minutes left on this current warning. If they're going to put out a new tornado warning, it is likely going to be coming very soon, and I think we're going to get a response from them here momentarily on whether or not they will extend that warning. But Four Corners, you're seeing some very heavy rainfall soon, just near Vertrees. It's actually just passed through Vertrees, about to exit that warning polygon right now and move into north central parts of Harding County. So just go ahead and still be and they are going to issue a new tornado warning with that one. So a new tornado warning will be coming out momentarily. We're going to see what area that includes, most likely northern portions of Harding County, as that circulation has tightened back up, and it's right there. This is the spot that we're watching, right on top of Kentucky Highway 920, moving northeast, almost parallel to Kentucky Highway 920 towards Vine Grove. I think Rineyville will largely stay out of the path of that, but we will put a new radar loop on this, and yeah, it's going to be crossing over Kentucky 920 right now, potentially making its way toward Kentucky. I believe that's going to be 220.
Shipley Road, if that is familiar to you, that rotation is tightening just along your community as it branches off from 920, which is also called Salt River Road. So Shipley Road right now, Salt River Road, just near Rough River, you are potentially dealing with a strengthening system that could be dropping a tornado right now, which is why they went ahead and reissued a tornado warning, or extended a new tornado warning for this area of rotation. So these are the communities in the path: Vine Grove, Radcliffe, Fort Knox. Other communities are now could potentially be dealing with this nasty storm. Has not produced a tornado just yet, but I think the strongest indications of a potential tornado that what we've seen all day is what's being picked up right there, that when we're starting to get some of those blue colors being clocked in on that velocity. So some stronger winds, a more tighter area of rotation. So higher indications that we could potentially be seeing something formulate in the form of a tornado. So Radcliffe, you have some time. Fort Knox, the warning is until 6:30 p.m. Eastern time, and then it will be knocking on the front door of Shepherdsville and then Mount Washington. But as of now, I think if you live in Four Corners, right now, that potential tornado is right over your community. putting a track on that system, Vine Grove, 557, you have about 12 minutes. North Hardin Christian School, if that's familiar to you, in northern Hardin County. And then it will be crossing over to Pitts Point by 6:15 p.m. So this storm has been rotating. It's been developing new areas of rotation time and time again. And right now, these are the areas in the path of this new area of rotation right now. So I want you to go ahead and find an interior portion of your home, whether it's your basement or your bathroom. This is where we're potentially seeing that tornado. Now, E-Town, that is a very populated area in our viewing community. You are not in the path of this potential tornado. However, if you take 65 south, you're tuning in Jefferson County, or you're tuning in Louisville and you need to take 65, give it about 30 more minutes and wait till this cell crosses 65. 65 is over there. It kind of curves over to the east. So maybe 45 minutes because we have this potential tornado that is heading towards North Hardin Christian School. Thankfully, it's summertime and 5:40, so most kids are at home with their parents. So we're able to keep people inside when we're dealing with this potential area. I'm curious to see the latest scans of rotation. Four Corners right now, you need to find your safe place because we are getting some indications of some strong winds potentially right now just along Salt River Road, which is 920 intersecting with 220. So if you live in this community, it's a very rural area, but I was just looking at the map. There is a road that branches off that is Shipley Road right now. Potentially you are dealing with rotating clouds and a tornado. So I need you to go ahead and head inside immediately as we are seeing some broad rotation with this storm. We do not have any indications that it is on the ground right now besides looking at our radar and doing our radar analysis for you. But Four Corners in that community right now is dealing with the worst of this storm and potentially. So just give it about 10 more minutes and then we'll move on and cross Highway 1600 there. A little bit hard to see that number there, but again, this is broad rotation that we are being picked up when we get some of those colors closer together. Still very disorganized, so we are seeing some strong winds being picked up regardless if it's on the ground or not. But if you look at the evolution of it, it really started to pick up as it crossed Four Corners right now. We are clocking in some strong wind speeds being picked up by the radar for this tornado-warned storm. A potential tornado just crossed over Four Corners. Again, not confirmed, but we are looking at it on the radar, and it is showing some signs of strengthening along this community. And you can even see it on the reflectivity when it starts to get that hook. That is the winds kind of rushing into it, and then that's when it starts to form potentially a tornado. So that is where that area of concern is. Big Springs, Flaherty, I don't think you're in the path. I think it's going to stay in this community and then start to head off to the east. So those communities, Vine Grove, Radcliffe, and Longview, you have about 15 minutes to head inside, but that area is what we're going to have to watch. Alden?
No new updates out of the Weather Service right now. It's just going to be that main area of rotation near Four Corners that we're keeping our closest eye on. Quite a bit of lightning out ahead of any of the rain as well. So this is why you still need to go ahead and be inside, because it doesn't have to be raining for there to be lightning striking the ground. So near Vine Grove, Radcliffe, you guys are in the path of this tornado warning. Rhineyville, it's just to the east of you. Craft, I think you're going to be okay. But Four Corners in particular, we've been talking about you a lot. So hopefully you've been in your tornado shelters now for some time as the storm continues to move off to the northeast. So Flaherty, Vine Grove, Radcliffe, you all need to be keeping a close eye on this. And I'll go ahead and put another track on this as well. Again, it's only moving at 35 miles per hour. So it's relatively slow, which does give you plenty of time to seek shelter. Vine Grove at 6:02, North Hardin Christian School at 6:04, Radcliffe at 6:06, and Dietz Acres at 6:08 p.m. is the expected arrival time. Not all of those points are actually populating on the map there, but if you heard your town, that's when you can expect that potential tornadic area of circulation to be in your region. Seeing a lot of heavy rainfall with this as well, and I want to take a quick look at our rainfall rates to get an idea. And this is a 5-minute rainfall rate. It's populating here, and we're seeing those really strong purple colors in there, just to get an idea, that's maybe 2-inch rainfall rates per hour. And since it's only moving at 35 miles per hour, that's how you end up with not just a lot of rainfall, but also some potentially localized areas of flooding too. So we'll go back to our main radar view. Actually, we'll check out our velocity product here just to see where that potential rotation is. Still looking at it mostly near Four Corners, but we are also, I see a new report here of a potential wall cloud north of Cecilia. So north of Cecilia, where we have a potential wall cloud, is also probably where we are going to see the most concerning activity. So as we move here to get Cecilia on the map, that's what we're going to pay our closest amount of attention to. Colleen.
Yeah, Cecilia, it looks like it is just off of Highway 62, just southwest of E-Town there, as we are watching potentially some more clouds starting to form from other storms. So that's a little interesting there, where Cecilia is located in comparison to this where we're watching here. So right now this tornado warning is in place. Right now that rotation, it looks to be north of Rhineyville right now, situated over Vine Grove and Radcliffe. So we're starting to see some rotation in those communities right now for this tornado warning that is in place, but it's starting to almost kind of fall apart and show a new area of rotation just a little bit. So Four Corners, this was the area that we were watching of some rotation. It looks like you're in the clear Four Corners, so is Howe Valley, and it kind of looks like that storm is trying to formulate something just over Vine Grove right now, where it's producing some strong wind gusts, and that's when we get those colors kind of tightening a little bit closer to one another just north of Rhineyville right now. So over Vine Grove, in between Rhineyville, potential tornado is over your neighborhood, and now it's eventually going to enter into Bullitt County here shortly near Radcliffe. So it is starting to exit northern Hardin County and enter Bullitt County, which is more populated, then potentially could impact southeastern Jefferson County. So this storm is on that northeast track. It has shown signs of recirculation, finding new areas of developing rotation with this system. So tornado warning is in place here for the next 30 minutes for this community. I want you to go ahead and find your safe place. If you live north of Rhineyville into Vine Grove, heading to Radcliffe here over the next 20 minutes, that kind of rotation that was over Four Corners, it kind of started to weaken a little bit, which is good. And then that kind of northeastern edge of that thunderstorm, it's kind of starting to rotate. I don't know if you've ever seen images of a thunderstorm producing little tiny spinners on either side of the thunderstorm. That's very possible, especially when we're talking about a tropical system. So this is not your classic hook echo. This is not your classic long-lived tornado. These are weak tornadoes spinning up in these tropical thunderstorms that we're dealing with the remnants of Beryl. So new areas are trying to rotate in that area of that thunderstorm near Vine Grove. We're also seeing it starting to weaken around Four Corners. So it's in that recycling period with this thunderstorm. Long-lived because it has been, we've been tracking this storm for over an hour now, and it's been producing multiple areas of rotation. We have not seen any reports of damage. We have not seen any reports of a confirmed tornado on the ground. I think it's important to remind you that we have not seen anything just yet, but that potential is there, especially when this thunderstorm continues to try to spin up tornadoes inside of it. So it's a giant thunderstorm that we're watching here. This area is what's trying to start to circulate just north of Vine Grove, west of Radcliffe. So those communities, please head inside because this thunderstorm is known to produce rotation. Flarity is also in that path right now, where it's dealing with not only some strong winds being picked up just along the edge, it's starting to rotate a little bit, and we're going to have to watch that area in particular, I think. But that initial area of rotation that we are watching, it's kind of much weaker right now, not as impressive on reflectivity. But the new path on that looks like it's heading to North Hardin Christian School. If that's familiar, we were talking about it. Now you have about 8 minutes to enter that community. So it is picking up speed a little bit, moving out of Hardin County and heading towards Bullitt County here over the next 15 to 20 minutes. So McDonald Junior High School also in this potential path. And then we're going to start to enter more populated communities near Bullitt County, and then eventually potentially Alden, getting close to the south end of Jefferson County where the path of this thunderstorm is heading.
There have also been more reports of wall clouds, such as another wall cloud near North Hardin High School in Radcliffe. So these storms, even if it's not necessarily raining where you are, you can still have areas of rotation. So although we've been focused primarily on this region down here, there have been reports of wall clouds near Cecilia. There's also been another report of a wall cloud near Radcliffe. So even though it's not necessarily raining in your area, that does not mean that we can't still see those areas of rotation. So something that we're going to be keeping a very close eye on. And as we try to get some images in as well that will show the lowering in that storm. So these are still definitely some very strong thunderstorms that we are keeping an eye on at the moment. But as we look at our main velocity product here again, maybe around Radcliffe near Vine Grove, we do see now some of this is radar clutter, so it's a little bit messy to look at and analyze. But we do have a couple potential locations where we could see some possible rotation. But as we get closer to the main radar site, which is in Fort Knox, we're going to maybe lose a little bit of that radar resolution as we get closer to the storm. But as Colleen has been saying, it's still that general area kind of near Rineyville that we're keeping our closest eye on. And as we look back at our typical radar view, doesn't quite have that classic hook shape that we were looking at as strongly as before. It's still there, but it's broken up a little bit now into a couple of different chunks. We're looking for it to cross State Highway 1600. It'll make its way toward Vine Grove and Radcliffe. That tornado warning is in effect until 6:30 Eastern time, so go ahead and be in your safe spot. If you're in Vine Grove, if you're in Radcliffe, Dietz Acres, you're also included in this. Rineyville, you should still probably be in your safe spot as well. And Longview, you're on the easternmost edge of that warning, but still something for you to be taking seriously. We have not really had any reports of damage whatsoever, which is good. But we have had a lot of reports of some very heavy rainfall. So I want to quickly look at those rainfall rates again, especially up near Flaherty and Grampton, where we're seeing those purple colors indicating rainfall rates potentially over 2 inches per hour. Looking at our shear tracker, don't see too much in the way showing potential shear, so rotation, thankfully, but hail also looking relatively not a big factor for us. It's been about less than a quarter size in diameter, which is good because that means you're less likely to have any damage with that. But the latest radar update that just came in, and once again, just don't really see that hook shape that we were looking at before. Still a very strong thunderstorm making its way toward Fort Knox. Radcliffe, Vine Grove, you are in the most immediate path of where we could have some potential rotation. So you should be in your safe spot right now. Go ahead and seek your safe spots if you're in if you are in Fort Knox too. Flaherty, you're dealing with some torrential rainfall at the moment. Pitts Point, this is well to the south of you right now, but I still want to give you a heads up that you could potentially be in the path of this storm as well. Looking at our National Weather Service chat, just a couple of images of the wall cloud. And yes, Colleen? I also do want to note, since some maybe have some family members, there's a tornado on the ground north of Evansville, not in our area, but I just wanted to let you know because, I mean, what's off to the west is eventually going to head our way. Our environment is conducive. So that purple you see in that polygon, that's a confirmed tornado just west of us. Okay, so we'll be keeping an eye on those storms as well. As Colleen's right, as we see this other line move into our area here over the next several hours. And in fact, we can take just a broader look at the Ohio Valley, and you'll see where we have some of that rainfall. Actually, I'll just bring it in a little bit closer here. We're going to be tracking this line near Evansville. It's moving northeastward, so a lot of this heavy activity is going to be staying in western Indiana. We're still tracking this storm here as it tracks into eventually into southern Bullitt County. We're also going to be watching some more of this activity that's lifting northward into Grayson County right now. So Litchfield, you're probably going to see some more heavy rain rain soon, but thankfully none of that is currently severe at the moment.
Yeah, that's good. If we switch over to Max 3 real quick, we'll get you back to that tornado warning, but I do want to point out this is all because of Beryl. The time is 6 o'clock. We will get you to that newscast when we feel fit, because if there's a tornado warning out there, we are going to stay on until that tornado warning is expired. My name is meteorologist Colleen Peterson, along with Alden Germain, and we also have Doug Profit in the room. We are tracking post-tropical Beryl that is producing a tornado potentially outbreak across the state of Kentucky. Those red boxes are tornado watches in place until midnight, and the main event is entering western Kentucky. I think for us, that's going to be the strongest band as it enters around 8 p.m. So we still have 2 more hours until we hit peak time right now, but we are tracking that one tornado warning. I just wanted to update you real quick about the big picture, but we can get back to Max 1 so we can zoom on into that tornado warning that is inching its way towards Bullitt County as we speak right now. So if you live in Radcliffe right now, please stay inside. You are seeing some strong winds with this storm that has not produced a tornado on the ground yet. We are getting indications of a wall cloud. If you don't know what a wall cloud is, it's basically a rotating portion of a cloud of a storm that starts to formulate, and then if it touches the ground, we can call it a tornado. So it's the beginning steps of a potential tornado. So it is showing some signs of strengthening, and we are getting some clutter. It's not as organized, but some strong winds being picked up on that side. So it almost kind of reminds me of it. If the rain is right there and we're getting rotation kind of in an area that's not classic with a hook echo, what we could see is a potential spinner kind of branching out of this thunderstorm. Yes, the thunderstorm can have multiple areas of rotation, and I think that's kind of the scenario that's happening over Radcliffe, because on reflectivity it doesn't look like it's lining up all that well. But so if we are seeing something over Radcliffe with some wall clouds, it could be a tiny spinner branching off this massive thunderstorm. Initially it was warned for that area that's situated over Vine Grove, but that kind of started to weaken. And that's pretty typical with tropical thunderstorms. They're not all that organized. They're rotating for sure on either side of the thunderstorm. So we don't really typically see this kind of setup for a tornado warning, especially in the state of Kentucky. But this is the impacts from Beryl that we're seeing. Tropical tornadoes is what we're calling this. So very disorganized system, but Radcliffe, I want you to go ahead and head inside right now. That potential rotation is over you. Vine Grove as well. We're also seeing another area of rotation on the south end of that storm. Fort Knox, you're on the rain side, so we're not really seeing any rotation for your community. You're kind of on that north-northwest side, so that rotation is kind of restricted to this side of that thunderstorm. So if we're going to see potential tornadoes, it is going to be on the south-south side. And then it's going to move off into Bullitt County near Shepherdsville. If it continues on that north-northeast track, staying south of West Point. So we're going to be watching this cell as it continues to develop. But I mean, strong winds, heavy rain could be producing a tornado as we speak right now, especially over the Radcliffe area.
We did have a severe thunderstorm warning that was issued a few moments ago. This is for central Breckinridge County and Grayson counties as that storm lifts northward. That goes until 5:30 Central Time. It's moving to the north at 35 miles per hour. Main hazards with that one will be 60-mile-per-hour winds and only penny-sized hail. So you'll still hear that, but hail the size of pennies is not going to be causing any type of damage, thankfully. I'll go ahead and pause radar here for a moment and put a track on this, just so we know what areas are going to be seeing some of this heavy rainfall. Litchfield, it's over you right now. Not very often we track a storm going due north, but because this is a tropical system, that's what we're currently doing. Cobbler's Knob, again, you were in an earlier tornado warning. Now you can expect some more heavy rain moving into your community at 5:14 Central Time. Cannons Point just before 5:20 Central Time, 5:27 in Axtell. Hardinsburg 5:39, and same time for just general central Breckinridge County for that severe thunderstorm warning. You'll get some gusty winds with that and some penny-sized hail, but thankfully nothing looks too dangerous with that. I got a photo in.
Where was this taken? Sorry to interrupt. I just got an inbox from Danny Beasley. It looks like a wall cloud potentially producing a tornado. Go ahead and go back to tracking. I'm going to try to get this information on this, but just wanted to let you know that we are getting more indications of a potential tornado right now.
All right, so as we continue to track that storm that's in northern Hardin County, a lot of these storms have been cycling. They've been going through a period of tight rotation, which is more indicative of a tornado, and then we see that rotation weaken a little bit, and then they kind of cycle again. We call these, there's a reason why we say storms have a life cycle, because they do. They can weaken, they grow, they decay, you know, kind of just like human life. And near Dietz Acres at the moment is where if we had any rotation, it would probably be near Dietz Acres or south near Radcliffe, probably the better area there. But as we continue to move through time here, we're not really seeing that tight circulation that we were seeing beforehand. But I'm going to be watching up here near Dietz Acres, south of Fort Knox, which is included in that tornado warning for any potential new tornadic development there. But for the moment in Dietz Acres, you're just seeing some very heavy rainfall at the moment, maybe a little bit of small hail with this. And since these storms are moving so slowly, we could see some localized areas of floodings and poor drainage areas and low-lying areas that have already possibly seen quite a bit of rainfall from any earlier storms that were in your area. I'm going to put on lightning here just briefly. They also just shrunk that tornado warning quite a bit. So Pitts Point, you are no longer included in that. Dietz Acres, you still are. Fort Knox, you still are in that warning as well. That includes our radar site. And Radcliffe, the main circulation is just to the north of you, but you're still included in that tornado warning at the moment. So we're just, for the most part with this storm, this is a tornado warning out of an abundance of caution, not because we've had any confirmed reports of a tornado, but we have had several reports of a wall cloud, which do tell you that, yes, there is some rotation within this storm, and if it's a healthy storm too, when you have that wall cloud. As we check out our velocity again near Dietz Acres, nothing that's really showing us that classic couplet signature of greens turning into reds or reds turning into the greens, which would really be an indicator of some of that rotation. But for right now, this warning still goes until 6:30 p.m. I'll put another track on this. It is tracking to the northeast, which would potentially mean we need to watch out for it in parts of Metro Louisville, again in the West End. It would impact Valley Station, PRP, and Fairdale first, but moving to the northeast at 35 miles per hour, relatively slow moving. But if it continued on its current path, we could see it in PRP at 641, Iroquois Park at 645, or near Brooks Elementary School just off of I-65 in northern Bullitt County at 639. Valley Station, I'm reading the list from bottom to top, 637 Eastern Time there for Valley Station, and McDonald Junior High School potentially at 609. Current time is 607. So McDonald Junior High School, if you are living near that area, you should already be in your safe spot at the moment. Dietz Acres on top of you at the moment, where we have this heavy rainfall and potential areas of circulation. But I do want to go ahead, even though there's not a warning for Metro Louisville, if you are in the southwestern quadrant of the city, you should be alert that this storm is making its way eventually, slowly, into parts of southwestern Metro Louisville. But it still has to get through Fort Knox first. It still has to get through parts of Bullitt County first. So we're looking at probably still another 30 to 35 minutes before we potentially saw anything here in the metro area. But hail, again, not a large concern for this. And we are still only seeing some small hail at the moment.
Yeah, it does look like it's kind of weakening again. This thunderstorm has been strengthening and weakening back to back. So right now we are seeing some broad rotation, almost straight line wind when we're talking about this thunderstorm. So there's not an area in particular that is showing an immediate sign of a tornado that is on the ground, but we have beginning reports of wall clouds being associated with this thunderstorm, producing some heavy rain, as well as some spin up tornadoes along with this cell. So we should take this seriously. You should do all of your tornado precautions, but there's no reason to freak out. You can take your kids, go into the basement, grab some games. It is a weaker cell right now, so that should bring some relief. But I still want you guys in Fort Knox, Pitts Point, to go ahead and head into that basement, especially along Highway 31. Radcliffe, you are in the clear of this potential tornado, as well as this cell that's producing a lot of rain with it, and potentially some multiple areas of spin-up rotation with this storm. So there's the radar site just north of us, so we are getting some really good data right here, being very close to it. So that is good that you live close to a radar site. So right now we are seeing some kind of areas of rotation, but when it lines up and you can draw a straight line through it, that really shows straight line wind. So it is on that weaker cycle right now, but it has proven to strengthen, especially along these areas where potentially some funnel clouds could be trying to spin up on that side of that thunderstorm. I mean, this is a tropical potential tornado that we're tracking here. So it's not your classic hook echo. We're going to see a long tracked one. No, it's going to be multiple small ones potentially with this thunderstorm in particular. We have not seen any indication of it being on the ground. We have been getting some reports of some wall clouds being associated with it, so it could have briefly touched the ground. We just haven't had any reports of it, and we haven't had any damage or debris being picked up on that radar. So if it was on the ground for a brief period, it must have been over a rural area, because we have not seen any confirmed reports of it. So we're kind of starting to get scatter from that radar site just to the north, but again, we are seeing it kind of weaken, and I'm curious to see, Alden, remind me of, when does this tornado warning expire? Was it 6:30? 6:30. Okay, so we have 20 more minutes, and I'd be curious once it starts to exit if they continue this tornado warning, because if that happens, then it's going to include a lot more populated areas, especially as we get closer to Jefferson County. So as of right now, these are the two communities. Bullitt County, North Hardin County right now is dealing with this tornado warning that's in place. Fort Knox, you're dealing with the peak of it right now with all of that heavy rain that is being picked up right here. So zooming on out, if we can go ahead and put a track on it, because it did move just a little bit closer to Bullitt County as it inched its way. Then Jefferson County is kind of right there. I mean, that is Jefferson County, Heritage Creek. We got PRP right there. Then eventually we got downtown just to the north. So this thunderstorm is going to eventually make its way towards Jefferson County. The question is it going to be a tornado warning storm at that time, or is it going to be a severe thunderstorm warning? Because it is showing some areas of rotation consistently over the past 2 hours. So potentially we could have it be extended, but we don't want to get ahead of ourselves. It has not produced a tornado yet, at least what we have seen, and what we have not what we have confirmed, that nothing was confirmed on the ground with this storm, and it is showing signs of weakening, and the radar site is right there. So we're getting kind of the most accurate information from this thunderstorm as you can when you get close enough to the radar. Unless it passes over it, then it kind of gets a little scattered. So right now that tornado warning is in place for the next 18 minutes, and then eventually it will be entering Jefferson County in 30 minutes. So we have to really stay on top of this storm to see what happens to it. But as of right now, it is definitely weakening.
I don't have any new anything to, well, actually, just kidding. Something just came in here. A possible funnel cloud was reported to the Litchfield Fire Department, being located directly south of Litchfield. They reported it as a funnel, but it was blocked by a lot of rainfall. So that's actually an important point to make, is because we're having such heavy rain with a lot of this, it's going to be difficult to see any type of rotation or a funnel cloud or tornado. We call that rain wrapped. So that's why we encourage you to just go ahead and stay inside in your safe place of shelter until the storm passes your area. But as we look at velocity again, And Colleen was saying as you get closer to the radar site, you get very accurate radar data. So this is only a few hundred feet above the ground, really, just to the east there of Fort Knox. It's going to be this region here, I believe, that we're going to pay close attention to see how that develops as it moves into Bullitt County. Moving a little bit further to the south, I don't really see anything that looks as imposing as it did before. Some gusty winds are certainly going to be possible, but otherwise the main hazard that we're looking at right now is going to be that very heavy rainfall as that tornado warning continues for another 15 minutes. Have not seen anything about them potentially extending that warning, but of course we're going to keep a close eye on it. Also, just as a reminder, we have a severe thunderstorm warning in central Grayson County, about to cross Rough River into central Breckenridge County, just south of Hardinsburg. That's for 60-mile-per-hour wind speeds and hail the size of a penny, so relatively small hail, thankfully. That's moving to the north, also at around 35 miles per hour. So we're seeing a good deal of rainfall from a lot of these storms, and we can actually check out some of the rainfall totals reported so far today since midnight, just to get an idea of how much has fallen. As that gets ready to pull up here, Hardinsburg has already seen over an inch of rain, 1.2 inches. Brandenburg, about 0.6 of an inch. Nothing officially here in Metro Louisville, but you can see that band where we've had that heaviest rainfall. And I also imagine Litchfield has probably seen more than 0.02 of an inch. But your local totals are going to vary, of course. These are just the totals that we're getting from an official rain gauge. 0.8 of an inch up in LaGrange from earlier. So going to be still an active evening. We have a tornado watch that's in place until midnight Eastern time for our entire WHAS 11 viewing area because of the potential to see these spin-up tornadoes that are associated with the post-tropical cyclone Beryl that made landfall just yesterday. And we're going to keep a close eye on this here as we head through the evening. And also Doug has some new information he wants to share with us now as well.
Alden, thank you. Of course, if everybody's just tuning in, as you know, we've been on the air most of the afternoon. Alden and Colleen doing an excellent job with our First Alert Storm team tracking these tornado warnings. So when these radar indicated tornado warnings come in and then we get the photographs from a lot of you and the videos, we then in our newsroom call the emergency management agencies in the different counties to double check to see if it's matching up. I just wanted to pass this along. Our folks in the WHAS 11 newsroom have been talking to the Hardin County Emergency Management agency there, and they're telling us no reports of any damage. That is good news. Nothing, zero reports of anything. And of course, that matches up with the trend that both Alden and Colleen have been telling you as these warnings come out, and then it seems to be the system dissipates as it's moving toward this area. But we are not out of the clear yet. Again, you're watching WHAS 11 News at 6. This tornado warning expected to go to 6:30. If it ends, then we will join ABC's World News Tonight to bring you the full report from the network coming up at 6:30. But as we've been seeing, these tornado warnings have been extended, which is as the case as the National Weather Service very concerned as this system's getting ready to move right into the Metro Louisville area, right up from the south, going into Bullitt County first. So Alden and Colleen, I'll throw it back to you all as we want to keep a close eye on that coming right up across the county line. What can you tell us now about the first areas of Jefferson County once it passes Bullitt that will also be impacted?
Doug, it's going to be the southwestern parts of Jefferson County that would see any of the heavy rain or severe weather first, but this is a good time to go ahead and put another track on this storm, which is looking kind of haphazard now, but it's also a factor of it being so close to the radar site. So I'll put another track on this. It's only moving at about 35 miles per hour, but from roughly the core of that storm into the metro area, we would see it in Fairdale around 6:37. Iroquois Park around 6:41, the Okolona area at 6:45, and potentially near U of L at 6:48. So these are fairly large lead times that we're giving you because the storm is moving so slowly. So this gives you plenty of opportunity to maybe finish up your business and then get back inside. We do not have any warnings for the metro area. That's the important part. They have not discussed about extending this warning downstream, but we are still seeing this strong thunderstorm crossing through northern Hardin County, about to cross cross into, or currently crossing into, western Bullitt County, and then we'll see it make a trek through the western half of Metro Louisville. But again, no severe thunderstorm warnings or no tornado warnings for Metro Louisville, but we are just giving you that first alert that we are seeing some heavy rainfall make its way in, or will see heavy rainfall make its way into the metro area here over the next 30 minutes.
Yeah, so we are going to keep our eyes on this, especially as it inches its way towards Jefferson County. We are dealing with the impacts of post-tropical Beryl, which is why we have the tornado warnings in place here across not only our area, but Western Kentucky was dealing with multiple tornado warnings. And this storm, it has been recycling, strengthening, weakening, and then strengthening again. And that's what happens when it comes to a tropical system. I mean, those rain bands have been circling around that low pressure for days now. So this is what we're seeing, the leftovers of it. It has that strength, it has that kind of spin in the environment, which is why these thunderstorms are a little relentless and not wanting to give up and continually forming new areas of circulation. So it becomes a new challenge for us to not track the classic one single tornado that's tracking across our area, but a thunderstorm that can produce multiple areas of rotation in one single storm. So as of right now, from what we're looking at, this is the wind speeds clocking in this tornado warned storm that is entering Bullitt County as we speak. Now, we're not really getting in the strongest winds that really start to see the pink colors and the yellow colors being clocked in. I think that may be around 30 to 40 miles per hour. The radar site is right there. So this is very accurate information that we're getting in. So we're likely seeing 30 to 40 mile per hour winds in this thunderstorm that can potentially rotate and start to formulate something there. But the fact that it's not really aligned with the red colors all that much, and it's kind of creating a straight line, showing that it's kind of blowing itself out. We're seeing broad rotation, which is kind of what we talk about when we're talking about a funnel cloud. We've seen reports of funnel cloud within the past 30 to 45 minutes with this storm, and I think that's pretty fair game. We have not seen any reports of damage. We have not seen any reports of it being on the ground. However, things can change in an instant when we're dealing with a post-tropical system with these thunderstorms. That tornado warning edge is right there through Bullitt County, but it could be extended farther into Jefferson County if it continues to hold its strength together. I know it looks a little scattered, that circle right there, that's that radar site. So we're kind of losing some of that data of the storm passing right over it. But the immediate edge of it, which this is the area of the thunderstorm that we have seen that rotation, it's getting some really good accurate information. So as of right now, there's broad rotation, could be seeing a funnel cloud, potentially producing a weaker end tornado. But as of right now, I'm not seeing an imminent threat of something on the ground with what we're looking at here with this latest information from our radar site. So we're going to get that information 9 minutes if they decide to extend it. And if they do extend it, it will include Jefferson County. So if you live in Louisville, if you live in southeastern Jefferson County specifically, I want you to pay attention. I know that you're trying to get back to programming here with World News coming up here in 10 minutes, but we're going to stick with this, especially if it heads towards downtown. We'll be able to look at some of our cameras. So to put in perspective, Okolona, South Jefferson County, that's PRP. Downtown is right over there, and this is where that storm is heading off to the north and northeast. So eventually going to cross into Jefferson County. There's no avoiding this storm. I think the question is it going to be a tornado warned storm at that time, or is it going to be a severe thunderstorm warning, or are they going to cancel it all in total and it's starting to weaken? This tornado warned storm, or this storm in particular, has been tornado warned for the past hour and a half plus. So even as it was entering our area, it was warned out ahead of it. So I wouldn't be surprised if they extend it just because this is a very populated area and it's showing signs of some rotation. But I also wouldn't be surprised because, Alden, I'm not really seeing an area of tight rotation that indicates a tornado potentially. But I mean, it could happen in an instant when we're talking about these tropical bands from the leftovers of Beryl right now. So If we could switch it over to Velocity, I know you're busy checking in with the chat. Do they have any new information actually?
Yeah, actually, they have expired that tornado warning. So at 6:30, they should be letting it pass. And then they put out a special weather statement for Metro Louisville, basically just telling us that we're likely going to see some very heavy rainfall and gusty winds up to about 50 miles per hour. Hail is not expected, but even with 50-mile-per-hour winds, you can still get some loose objects to be blown around. So something to keep in mind. And I believe we just had a new warning be issued.
Tornado warning?
No, I don't. Let me back out here and see.
Let me check here.
It's up here. It's up to our north. It's a new severe thunderstorm warning. This would have come out of the Indianapolis office.
Okay.
This will include North Vernon and Lovett. That severe thunderstorm warning goes until 7 p.m. Eastern time. Moving north only 20 miles per hour with 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts. So if you're in Lovett, you're probably experiencing that very heavy rain. Grayford, North Vernon, it'll be coming up to you. Now, Four Corners, Indiana. We have a Four Corners, Kentucky, and a Four Corners, Indiana. You are going to see a brief downpour, but as of now, the heaviest of that rainfall is likely going to be staying just off to your east. So they are not, it appears, going to extend that tornado warning. They're going to allow it to expire, and they'll go with a special product statement there as well. World News Tonight begins in 6 minutes, looking at the current time there. So parts of Bullitt County, you're going to see that very heavy rain moving in momentarily, if it's not already falling in your area. The storm is moving out of the tornado warned storm. It'll expire in 6 minutes, and then at 6:30 we can take you to World News Tonight, assuming there are no other warnings that are going to be issued. But if you're in Metro Louisville, just be ready for some gusty winds up to about 50 miles per hour, some heavy rain associated with it, as the storm is only moving at about 35 miles per hour up to the north right now. And I'll do another track on this as it moves to the northeast. Barrelton at 6:30, Medora 6:32, Fairdale 6:38. Iroquois Park at 6:45, and near Shively 10 minutes before 7 o'clock at 6:50 Eastern time. So the storm has weakened quite a bit, which is good news, but it is still pretty healthy. It's still producing some of those fairly gusty wind speeds. And again, that tornado warning will expire at 6:25 here, at 6:30, so in about 5 minutes. And assuming we don't have any other severe weather or tornado warnings that we need to contend with, we will go back to regular programming with World News Tonight coming up at 6:30. Colleen?
Yeah, we want to talk about post-tropical Beryl real quick, because the night isn't over. Even though that tornado warning is going to expire, the winds on this system 30 miles per hour. If we can switch it over to max 3, so we can kind of let you know, okay, right now, we're not really seeing an immediate threat of tornadoes, but there is a watch in place, and we have more severe thunderstorms that could be producing tornadoes associated with what's left of Beryl heading our way around 8 to 10 o'clock tonight. So that tornado warning is going to expire here as we head over the next few minutes, but a tornado watch does not expire until midnight. So try to stay inside tonight. I mean, we've been tracking tornado warnings for the past 2 to 3 hours already from the remnants of Beryl. We have no confirmation of anything touching the ground, and that's pretty common with tropical systems because they're weaker systems. They're weaker tornadoes, but that does not mean that the threat is over, and we could still have more. Forecast model pretty in line with what we've seen so far. That line that's entering western Kentucky will then enter Bedford and Hardinsburg around 8 p.m. tonight, cross Louisville around 9 to 11 o'clock, and then that's when it's going to be over Madison and Newcastle. So I think the threat of more potential tornadoes is possible from 7 p.m. What time is it? 7, I would say 8 o'clock, 8 o'clock to 11 o'clock tonight with the remnants of Beryl. By the time we're talking at midnight, that threat will have come to an end. So looking at that radar right now, we are going to let that tornado warning expire. That is just entering Bullitt and Jefferson County, so there is no immediate threat of a tornado in our community. But Doug, thankfully, there has been no reports. We've just seen some reports of funnel clouds around our area.
And that is correct, Colleen and Alden. Thank you very much for an excellent job so far. Of course, we're not out of the woods just yet. And here on WHAS 11, our First Alert Storm team will be cutting right back into programming if need be. It's going to be a long night of potential threats. We want to invite you to stay with us for the WHAS 11 night team. We have several reporters who've been working all day long. Our 11 o'clock news is all new for you tonight. There is no repeat in that newscast tonight. It'll be your first newscast of the day here from WHAS 11, as our team has been on since way before 3 o'clock today, bringing you these spin-up reports of possible tornadoes. But the good news as we are getting ready to go to world news tonight that we can pass along to you, and we've been talking to emergency authorities in the different counties just south of Louisville. They have no damage reports and no trouble, and nobody has been injured in any of those counties. So for now, we thank you for joining us. Again, join us for the WHAS 11 night team at 11. ABC's World News Tonight is coming your way next.
All right, good evening. This is meteorologist Colleen Peterson. We were just with you for a few hours tracking tornado warnings, and now there is a new warning in our area. This is one single county. It does look to be on the weaker side, but Du Bois County, there is a tornado warning in place for the northwestern portion of it. So Jasper, you are not in the path. This is a very, very rural area, but this storm is showing some signs of rotation. So we're going to go ahead and zoom on in and pinpoint exactly where we are seeing these areas of rotation. So it looks like we're seeing two separate areas right now being picked up right here. And then also we have another one just off to the south of it. So this is a potential tornado that is being picked up west of Jasper, as well as another area of rotation west of Hayesville. So both those storms have really evolved here over the past 15 minutes. I mean, look at the path of it. It's going from the east to the south to the north. This is a rain band from post-tropical barrel, which is why it's kind of rotating in that kind of counterclockwise motion. So it looks like it was heading right towards Hayesville, but now it's heading due north at 30 miles per hour. So I'm going to go ahead and put a track on both of these systems, hopefully going to get you back to programming because it's on the very fringe of our viewing area right now. So I'm going to go ahead and put reflectivity back on, moving to the north. Both those systems. Again, it looks like it's heading to Jasper, but it's actually not. It's heading on that northward track right now. So if you live in any of these communities, I mean, it's going to eventually be out of our area, but I wanted to keep you updated, especially if you happen to live in Du Bois County, just west of Jasper, because, you know, we have a dedication to you as well. So a tornado warning is in place until 7 o'clock p.m., so just about 25 more minutes. So if you have any family or friends that live in Waco or areas outside of our viewing area, just make sure to have those precautions and stay inside right now. I do want to go ahead and talk about what else is going on here across town. Not seeing any other areas of tornado warnings, but what we are going to be focusing on moving forward is this right here. That is eventually going to make its way towards our area here by 8 o'clock p.m. And then after that pushes through, we're in the clear. So we have just about 4 more hours of dealing with the remnants of Beryl, which I've dealt with many tropical systems growing up in Florida. This is very typical. It's usually a 12-hour period of seeing the impacts. And for us here in Kentucky, this is what we're seeing, the tornado threat here across town. So zooming back into that one tornado warning that we are watching here, I do want to go ahead and try to show it a little bit more clear by stopping it. This tornado warning is in place until 7 o'clock for northwestern Du Bois County. No, it is not heading to Jasper. This is just on that northwestern quadrant of that area. So it's eventually going to make its way out of Du Bois County, but I do want to zoom on into the community Highway 56 over Ireland, just west of Jasper. You have some rotation over you. This is where a potential tornado is as we speak. We're not really seeing a super tight area of rotation, so it is very broad over your community, but we still want to make sure to take the precautions. So if you're tuning in Louisville, I know we've been talking a lot over the past few hours. If you're in southern Indiana, we just wanted to make sure everyone across our viewing area is covered, however small. Ireland right now, you are potentially dealing with some broad rotation. We have not seen any indications of any kind of tornado, but okay, we got Du Bois County Emergency Management, Gary Fritz, spotter reported rotation in a cell at 200 north, 600 west in Du Bois County. So okay, so we are getting some spotters picking up some rotating clouds in that thunderstorm. Still no confirmation of it making to the ground, but right now that intersection of Highway 51 and 231 in Du Bois County, that's the community that we are watching for some rotation. So that is going to eventually make its way to the north. Looking at the track of it, it went from the east to the north. So it kind of curved Jasper County, Jasper, the city of Jasper, it kind of curved you just off to the west because this is a rain band from post-tropical barrel. So this is just some of the characteristics that tropical systems have. It can kind of turn in interesting ways, I should say. So this tornado warning is in place here until 7 o'clock for this area in particular, and you can kind of see that kind of hook just north of Ireland right now. So it is kind of slowly moving out of that area, and just to be on the safe side, not really seeing any kind of debris being picked up. So very rural area. This storm is moving off to the north. So interesting track there. Other than that, we're not dealing with any other tornado warning, just dealing with this severe thunderstorm warning that I do want to check in with. So North Vernon and Lovett, you're still dealing with a severe thunderstorm warning that is producing some heavy rain. Right now, there is no indication that it is producing a tornado. So right now, North Vernon and Lovett, you're just dealing with a thunderstorm that is producing some potentially some winds up to 30 to 40 miles per hour, and then also some heavy rain associated with it. Zooming on in back to that thunderstorm, it really started to weaken. We are not concerned with any more tornadoes in Jefferson County as we were tracking that tornado warned storm heading our way, but we are under that tornado watch until midnight, so we could potentially see more warnings start to fire up here. So that one area of rotation is for Du Bois County, and in fact it's about to leave the county and exit our area. So right now, really, Du Bois County is the only area of concern, not going to impact Jasper right now. We're going to continue to keep our eyes on this as it's exiting our area as we speak. But if you live in Jasper, you are not in the path of this storm. It is now moving out of our area. But we have much more on our way out to the west. We are tracking that line that will eventually make its way by 8 o'clock tonight. And we will tune back in and cut into programming if we have any more warnings. And of course, tune into WHS 11, night team at 11 o'clock. We will be here to keep you updated. This is the remnants of Beryl, and we are on top of it, on top of the radar. Stay tuned for more information and stay safe out there. We'll keep you updated.